Welcome, everybody, to the presentation from the school for the school budget workshop, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Peter, it's all yours.
All right. Well, I guess I would like to begin by thanking everybody for the opportunity to have this workshop this evening. I know you guys have had...
Pull it up higher.
Louder?
Yes.
I'd like to thank you for the
Thank you,
opportunity
Peter.
to have this workshop this evening. I know that everybody has had a lot of different budget workshops, and I think we're the last ones to go, so I'm sure everybody's tired. It's like a marathon, and you're getting to the end. I would like to begin by thanking the administrative team who's sitting here this evening. They have done an outstanding job of working together, working hard to bring you a budget, I believe, that is responsible to our needs. And I say needs, not wants. It's a theme that you're going to hear throughout the evening. I'd also like to thank Amanda right here as our finance assistant, who's been working really hard with all of this, with the lines and everything else that we've been doing. There's quite a few lines involved, quite a few documents. So thank you. They've done an excellent work. We started this process back in January with the board, just like you started your process. We've been meeting over through 11 different cost centers. They've all presented their budgets. For those of you who watch at home or not able to be here tonight, you can go to our website, and on our website you'll see budget workshops, and those workshops are every single workshop that we've had, and you don't have to listen to the entire board meeting. It's just the workshop. So I would encourage you to do that if you'd like to learn more. And also, in order to keep the council members updated as we went through this process, we tried to, we delivered our budget sheets to the council so that could keep them informed and be together on this. I have a screen here. It's a school bus and a snowplow. I don't know if you can see it. And I used this a year ago or a couple years ago. And, I said that a picture's worth 1,000 words. But really, it's symbolic. It made me chuckle. But if you think about it, it's a reminder that our town is made up of different departments. And collectively, we're one unit working towards a common cause. I don't think there's anybody in this room that says, education isn't important. Every single one of us is. And I don't think anybody in this room doesn't have somebody in this community, because it's a small community, who lives in this community, who has a child, who have parents, who understand the importance of a quality education. To say it a different way, from a school's perspective, these kids are all of our kids. And when they succeed, we all succeed. Picture reminds us that we can't get our students safely to school and provide them with an education if the roads aren't properly cared for. We get that. On the other hand, the best cared for roads won't help us if we don't have a bus or the necessary staff members to work with our students. You're going to hear that theme, necessary staff members to work with our students, throughout the evening. It's extremely important. The image is a reminder. We should never underestimate the power of working together as a community, and I will tell you that this is one amazing community. You have outstanding support for your schools in this community. You have outstanding parents in this community. You have outstanding kids in this community, and you've got a tremendous educational support system. This is a special place. It really is. I've worked in your central office for the past 17 years. You don't work someplace for 17 years and not be transparent. And my experience with all of you is that when we unite our efforts, we overcome our challenges. Our goal tonight is to present you with an overview of our schools, which will include our successes, our challenges, and our rationale for the budget. Katie, I thought this would be really important for you, because you're new, and what is the school department all about? Why have it? How do we know how they're doing? Are they successful? We hope to show that to you this evening. We welcome questions you might have on any particular line. This is really important because this budget comes to you after it's been vetted, it's been cut, and it's been adjusted. I have always been transparent with our budget presentations. I never come with what some refer to as a padded budget. We feel this budget will serve the needs of our students and families of the community within the confines of the law. We follow the law. I want to stress that we have worked hard to find a balance at both serving the student needs and being fiscally responsible to the Winslow taxpayers in the preparation of this budget. I think you'll see that the numbers at the conclusion of this presentation supports that statement. Strong schools, strong community. This is what we believe. Our business, you might think, well, this is a funny thing to call it a business. It is a business. We run a $21 million business. We are responsible for providing a quality education to the youth of this community. It is people-oriented. Schools are, not just Winslow's, every school district in a state, in the country. It's about people. Approximately 80% of our costs relates back to people. Teachers, custodians, bus drivers, food service, coaches, nurses, social workers, administration, guidance counselors, maintenance. 80% of our costs. And I'm proud to say that this is a school district and a community that wraps their arms around their children. For we all agree, I don't think anybody in this room disagrees, that our children are the most precious commodity that we have. Overview of our schools and what our budget supports. Our mission is to help prepare all students, regardless of the barriers they may face, to be productive members of our society. For they will be the citizens of our future and the leaders of tomorrow. We have two major areas of emphasis: academic achievement, respectful and responsible. If you think about it, you think about life, you think about what you do as an adult. Are you achieving? Are you being respectful and responsible to others? Each year, 45 teachers and administrators attend a day-and-a-half leadership workshop at Winslow High School. We review how we did on our established goals from the previous year, which includes data points, areas of academic achievement, and respectful and responsible student. Based on the findings and our progress, our goals were established for the upcoming year. Tonight's pretty exciting, because for us, this budget process started back during that leadership retreat. Because when we're having conversations about how our kids are doing, how did we meet our goals, what do we need to do to make adjustments, that's where the conversations really start about, here, let's be thinking about next year, this is what we need. It's not a budget where we just throw it together at the last minute. It's well thought out. The budget is in support of the needs we have identified through our data and our established goals. I've mentioned it already, I'll mention it again. The budget is based on needs, not wants. There are a lot of things we may want, but we truly focus on needs. The budget reflects what the professionals working with your children, and when I say professionals working with your children, it starts with teachers as well. At that retreat, we have team leaders, 45 of them, giving input in terms of what would make things work better. We've used this process for 17 years. A lot goes into the development so that we can provide a quality education and be fiscally responsible. I thought it would be important to talk a little bit about financial support. Where do we get our funds? Because we always talk about expenditures. Well, how do we pay for things? The first thing on that is the ED 279 state revenue. I'm not going to give you a lesson on the ED 279, but I just want to highlight a couple of things. Sherry has done a really good job this year in trying to learn that ED 279 and work with us, and we appreciate that, Sherry. So the ED 279 is a document we received from the state in early February. That document gives us our preliminary revenue the state plans to award us. Student population and property valuation are the major drivers, along with the established mills raised for education. The ED 279 is based on the essential program and services model. The essential program and services model provides the state with a mechanism for establishing a minimum funding level. I have to say that again. Establishes a minimum funding level. It's not designed to pay for everything. It's up to the communities to decide what they're going to pay for, what they prioritize. And I say community, the school district has to have those conversations and say, we really need this, because even though they say this is how much money we think is essential for sports, for example, it costs a lot more than that to run those programs. The EPS model is not expected to be to determine all cost to education for every SAU. The actual needs and subsequent costs are a local decision, which may not match what the EPS formula has determined, meaning you can raise more. The majority of the communities do. They have to, because you can't survive on what the formula gives you. The formula has many weights to determine what you'll receive. Those weights may or may not work in your favor, depending on where you live. So, I want to get into tuition students. We are projecting 54 tuition students as a revenue source for next year. Last year, we also had 54. We will receive tuition for 40 of those students, full tuition for 40 of those students, which amounts to $15,126.24 for each student, with a total of $605,049.60. This is all on your sheets that you'll see at the end of the summary. I've got it all laid out there for you. We'll receive $9,983, or 66% of the full tuition for each of the remaining 12 students, because they go to the tech center, and the tech center receives a portion of that tuition. So together, when we add it, it's a total of $744,811 and some change. You'll see on the summary revenue sheet when I pass out later, or you've got it you've received it because I brought it over to you the other day. You'll see $750,000 there. We bumped that up a little bit because we think there'll be a little bit more revenue in another category that we'll be able to accommodate that with. Our tuition students are mostly from Vassarboro. They have school choice. When they reach high school age, many choose to come to Winslow for their education, and we think that speaks volume of the quality education they feel they receive from us here in Winslow. We also have shared services as a maintenance director, occupational therapist, and a courier. Our maintenance director provides the maintenance for Winslow as well. Corey is over here. It used to be Shelley that did that. Vassarboro used to be Shelley that did that for us. So they pay a portion of his salary for his services. Vassarboro pays us for some occupational services we receive. Revenue from Waterville and Vassarboro for our courier. We still have a courier that brings mail around. This is one of the ways in which we work together to save money, is the sharing of these services. Cost sharing certain employees is not necessarily a revenue stream for us, but it is a way to keep our expenses lowered. For example, many of the business functions that take place in Waterville, like HR, accounts payable, are cost shared with 3 communities. We pay a portion of that cost as opposed to having to hire our own people. That's a tremendous savings to us. Other areas we cost share to save money include the sharing of the following directors: transportation, technology, and food service. We also take advantage of writing grants whenever an opportunity presents itself that aligns with our goals and our needs. The local contribution is the amount that remains in support of education after you have taken everything else I've talked about into consideration. I want to mention that we're also proactive in finding ways in which to save money. We have a solar array that we got involved with several years ago. We were finally able to reduce our electrical costs this year. You'll see $130,000 in there, I believe, in total for electrical costs. We were able to reduce that by $25,000 to that $130,000, because it would have been a lot more than that. We go out to bid for oil. We started that process several years ago. We reached out to the town, we reached out across the river, we reached out to Vassarboro, the towns, the schools. We go out to bid for our oil and our fuel. We bought 60,000 gallons of oil this year at $2.52 a gallon. We're locked in. You're locked in as well. That's a savings to the town. Another example of how we work together. We built a $2.2 million addition to the elementary school at no cost to the local taxpayer back in '23. We used COVID funds to do that. We were one of 20 schools in the state to be able to do that, to add that space. Looking to the future and taking advantage of savings to keep our buildings in good standing is something that we'd like to talk to you a little bit about tonight as well. So, who are our kids? Student population, 1,129. The elementary school is 562 when this count was done. Junior high school, 178. The high school had 389 when this count was done. Student outcomes. I'm beginning with the end in mind here. And what I mean by that is I'm talking about the high school. What I'm not talking about is the junior high and the elementary school. I'm focusing on the high school right now because the kids come up through the system. I always see it as a house. The house has a roof, it has walls, it has a foundation. The elementary school is building a tremendous foundation. Junior high is putting the walls up, and the high school is topping it off. But without the foundation, without the walls, without the people, without the things we need to make it solid along the way, it collapses. You need all of them. But as I talk about the kids and I talk about our successes, I think you'll see how this all fits together in one big picture. So, the class of '25. 79% of our students went on to post-secondary schooling. 79% of our kids. Pretty impressive. 40% of them went to a 4-year college or university. 39% went to a 2-year college or university or certificate program. 17% of our students went on to post-secondary schooling, 3% entrepreneurship, and 1% in the military. The next slide, you don't have a hard time seeing. That's a pretty powerful system you've got here. Doesn't work that way with us. You see some advanced placement courses, and I should probably let Mr. Bell say a few words about this because he knows a heck of a lot more about what's going on with his courses than I do.
Thanks, Mr. Tivitat. Hi, for those that don't know me, I'm Chad Bell. I'm the principal at Winslow High School. So here is just us highlighting the opportunities that students have while they're at Winslow High School. So these are courses that are taught by Winslow High School teachers where students can earn not only high school credit but also college credit. So AP courses, which a lot of you may be familiar with, those are advanced courses that students have an opportunity to take an exam at the end of the year and earn college credit. One of the things I want to highlight, is like AP US History is a perfect example where if a student gets a 3, 4, or 5 on that exam, 5's the highest. So 3 is where they can earn college credit. The UMaine system will actually, for AP US History, give 6 college credits for that instead of just 3, which most other ones get. The dual enrollment courses are teachers who are teaching for Winslow at Winslow High School where students can take it, like senior English is a perfect example. So senior English would be college English, where doing a year of senior English at Winslow High School, students earn 6 KVCC credits at the end of the year. Several years ago, we had another partnership with another area school, but we found out over time the KVCC credits were transferring much better within the state of Maine. So we moved all of our agreements and expanded upon those with KVCC. No problem.
I think Chad touched upon this. So these are the courses that were available. So an average of 3.6 courses per student was taken. Those are savings of $4,579 per student to UMaine if it transferred there. Think about the savings to the families in this community as a result of that. The rest is self-explanatory. 69 students took 1 plus dual enrollment AP class. 34 students had the potential to earn 12 credits. Average savings of $5,088 for a student if they went to Maine. Early college stats. This is impressive. 12 students are on track for 20-plus credits. Look at the savings to the families. 2 students had the opportunity to earn 30 college credits, a year of college when they left Winslow High School. They had a year of college under their belt. That doesn't happen if you don't have quality people, quality instructors working with your kids. This next slide is NEASC, New England Association of Schools and Colleges. Our high school is accredited. Chad and his staff has done a fantastic job getting that accreditation. It's a long, long process. Tremendous amount of work. The next bullet on there, twice named National Unified Champion School. Only 3 high schools in the state of Maine has been recognized twice in a 10-year period. Athletics, extracurricular opportunities. I could go on with the various banners and traditions and sports that they've won. Music and drama, outstanding program. I don't know if you go to any of the drama plays or any of the music, I mean, outstanding. The music program is just coming back from COVID. Go to our website, Proud Moments. You'll see many more that have something to do with our elementary school, with our junior high. Go to the websites and look at it. It's all right there. I want to talk a little bit about assessment data. How do you know how our kids are doing? You see how our seniors done. Well, that's the end product of going through our system. These assessments that you hear, the main 3-year assessments, are given to students who are in grades 3 through grade 8 and grade 10. So the one in the yellow, the orange that jumps out at you is Winslow. What that is telling you is that 66.1% of our students are at or above the main expectations that were taken. You look at the state, it's 63.8. The next slides are in blue, and I didn't do this to bring attention to anybody else. These are just school districts near us. It's just a comparison of how are we doing, because we're always comparing ourselves to others. How are we doing? And you can see how we did. The school districts near us are outstanding. Any student that goes to any of the districts gets a quality education. And we work closely with these school districts, and we share resources as well. But you can see how we're doing. Go to the next slide. Students that are above main expectations in math. You can see that Winslow is above the state average again, and still doing well compared to other districts around us. Next slide. Math scores steadily improving over the past 3 years. That's been a big focus for us. And you can see the trend that we're going up, so the work that we're doing is making a difference. Then we look at the last one, which is science only. Percent of students at or above main expectations. This is only in grade 5, 8, and 11. Once again, we did better than the state, and they did very well compared to the students, other schools. Now, somebody asked me one day, well, are you satisfied with these scores? Of course we're not. Is the state satisfied with their scores? You have to remember that these scores, these tests, are given to every single student in these grades, regardless of their ability. It's all counted. So that being said, who are our kids? A lot of our students need a lot of support, and they get that support starting very early on. In fact, on the first day of school, some kindergarten kids are really excited to jump on the bus. They're ready to go. Parents are there giving them the hug. It's an emotional moment. And then you have some kids that need to have an ed tech on that bus in order to ride safely to school. That child will make it by the time they stay with us. But it takes a long time to give that child support in order for them to make it. We have professional staff that goes the extra mile for each of our kids. We have a supportive community, and we have outstanding parents. Next slide. This one's tough. 52% of our kids are economically disadvantaged. Fran, you and I grew up in the same neighborhood. a little older than you are. Your brothers were some of my best friends playing football on pickup football. You know that we didn't have any money.
Right.
Education, for me, was the ticket to a brighter future. Education for 52% of these kids is their ticket to a brighter future. Students of the 504 plan. It's a little bit confusing. It's going to sound confusing. You say, well, what's the difference between a 504 plan and special education? The difference is a 504 plan is a legally binding school-based plan to provide accommodations for students with physical and mental disabilities that substantially limit one or more major activities such as learning, walking, or concentrating. It's different than an IEP because the IEP it needs to have specialized instruction attached to it. Our special ed director can really explain that a lot more than I do if you want the whole gamut of it, but that's the basic piece of that. McKinney-Vento. People ask, what's McKinney-Vento? It's something that we provide. It's students who are unhoused. We have 13 students who are unhoused, homeless, but they come to school. And we provide the supports for them to succeed at school. And we work through the state. I'm the homeless liaison as well as your superintendent. We work through the state to provide them with what they need in order to succeed. The guidance counselors, the principals. We have unbelievable conversations in order for these kids to make it. I have English language learners. We have 17 English language learners. I'll talk a little bit more about them in just a second. Next slide that we have, you'll see the different categories. 27% of our students are identified for special ed. And you can see the categories. Autism, developmentally delayed, emotional disturbance, and it goes on. These are all great kids that need support in order to succeed. And they do succeed, as you saw by our results. English language learners, I said that we have 17. Those are the languages that are spoken at home. You can see that they're spread out. Kindergarten, first grade, third grade. Therefore, we need a teacher and 2 ed techs to work with our students because you can't provide the supports that they need since they're all spread out in different grades. Who are our staff? 224 staff members. That's total. That's everybody. Winslow Elementary School has 105. Junior high has 34. The high school has 64. We have 21 non-school-based staff. Those are bus drivers, central office staff. We have a small central office staff. A crossing guard who only works a few hours in the morning, a few hours in the afternoon, and 1 maintenance guy for the entire district. Classroom teacher count. How many teachers do we have? Winslow Elementary School, 46 teachers. Winslow Junior High School, 17. Winslow High School, 29. Class size. These are the questions you really say, okay, you've got staff, so what's your class size? Our class size averages 15 to 22. 15 might be the littles because they need a lot of attention. 22 or higher could be high schools, could be junior high. So our class size are good, normal class sizes. We're not having classes of 5. Our classes are good. This is a slide I thought you'd find interesting. Because when you look at the big picture and you say, okay, what's it cost per pupil? You'll see that the state average pupil cost in the state of Maine is $21,717. This is taken from the data dashboard right off the DOE site. So the state average is $21,717. Our average is $19,573. I suspect when the new dashboard, when the new numbers come out, 25, 26, that number will have gone down because of the way we were reduced that last year, and you'll see the numbers again this year. Hurdles. You going through your town budget with your town departments, you had a lot of hurdles. you had a lot of challenges. And I don't mean that in a negative way. You know, part of coming up with a good solution is to have good conversations and work together. It's not a bad thing, but it becomes difficult when inflation is out of your control. There's nothing you can do about it. We're faced with inflation. Contractual obligations. These are components that you have to have. And if you want to be competitive and you want to have good teachers, you have to have contracts that are comparable. And when the contract is up and we meet and we negotiate with whatever group it is, you know, we start looking around to see what are others paying in this area. What is the going rate? What are the comparisons? And we work from there. We have things that are required by statute. There isn't a thing we can do about it except make sure that we're abiding by statute. Because if we don't abide by the statute, they withhold our funds. Or somebody takes you to task and takes you to court and says, you're not providing my child what that IEP says you should be. I'm taking you to task. And they should be, because we should be providing their child what they need if they have an IEP. Unfunded mandates. I want to bring this into your attention because you'll see this number in here in our budget. You know, there's a number in there, $65,437. This is the paid family medical leave. This is new. It's the second year that we've been doing this. This is a cost that's now here that wasn't there 2 years ago. So this is one of those unfunded mandates. We still don't know what the rules are going to be. It's supposed to start in May. We still don't know the rules. So once we get the rules, we're going to have to open up some contracts and figure out what we do with it, because we already have a system for paid family medical leave. But this is just an example of one of those unfunded mandates. You know, there are hurdles and challenges which impacted your budget. They impact our budget. Our insurance rates would be one example, along with things that are completely unplanned, such as out-of-district placement. You get a child who we can't support, and they're rare because we have great people and we have the programming in place to support them. It's a lot cheaper to have educational technicians working with children than it is to have one outside placement that could be up to $100,000. So we, again, try to find ways in which we can take care of our kids and their needs. There are some cost drivers. I use this slide just as a visual. 80%, those are all our people. The rest is the rest. But here's what I want to say to you. We don't have a turf football field and lights, but we have an outstanding football team. We don't have a performing arts center, but we have an excellent drama and music program. We're successful because we have caring, supportive parents, a supportive community, and excellent staff working on behalf of your children. And I keep saying your children because they're all our children. Here's some examples of some other expenditures. That big blue thing, there's your salaries and benefits, okay? Debt service. We have a couple of bonds out there. One of them is retiring next year, which is something that we wanted to, you know, wanted to talk to you about that because we need to be proactive in taking care of our buildings. Fuel oil, I've already mentioned to you. That's what we paid for fuel oil this year. We're locked in at $2.52. Gasoline, propane, electricity, I mentioned to you. That would have been $25,000 more if we hadn't gotten the solar array. We were able to knock that down. Water, sewer, telephone. Insurances. So it just goes on. So, budget reflects a real impact to inflation cost, which have impacted all of us. It advocates for student-centered support and resources needed to help address challenging, unique behaviors. I'm not sure, I feel like I got a frog in my throat here. It provides the resources necessary to comply with state and federal regulations, who qualify for special services or who need additional support. And it continues a history of support and dedication to children and youth in our community as we prepare for the 21st century. The last thing I want to show you before I open it up for any questions you might have is the projected revenue worksheet. Start you right off at the top line. If you go all the way over to the right, third column from the end, you'll see that our total request is $21,669,334.87. And you'll see what the increase is, $699,329.10, or a 3.3% total request. There's two parts to a budget. There's your expenditure side, and there's your revenue side, how you're gonna pay for it. So I'm gonna walk you down through the revenue side right now to show you how this will be paid for, hopefully. State subsidy. If you go way over to that same column, third from the right, $10,941,948. That's an increase of $550,354 over last year. Now that state subsidy, again, is based on your property valuation, student count, and all of the counts that they call an EPS funding formula. If you look at that next line, Educational Service Center, $67,000. We belong, again, another way in which we try to build revenues, pull revenues in to help the local taxpayer. We belong through the Kennebec Alliance, which are the superintendents in the Kennebec Alliance area, and we work together to provide professional development to our various staffs that we have, and because we do that, we get a return from the state. Our dues and fees are $2,000, Amanda, is that correct? So our dues and fees for that are $2,000, and our return is $67,000. So it's a pretty good thing for us to be doing. So you'll see the total there for that is 11 million, a little over 11 million. Then you start working your way down through the school revenues. So athletics, you see we bumped that up a little bit. You know, we had some pretty good gates last year. We bumped it up, hoping that we have some good gates again this year to 24,000. We bumped it up by 10. Rental of facilities, not a big number there, but it's revenue. If you look at shared occupational therapists with Vassabro, that's the individual that we employ. We share it with them for some services, and they pay us a revenue for that. Same thing with the courier. The next line is shared maintenance director. That's our maintenance director, the portion that they pay. Then the next one is state agency clients, $25,000. Those are students that the state might place in our district. And we may receive some revenues from them because they really don't have perhaps a home that they can go to. And so they may place them in Winslow because they may have foster families or foster families who are willing to take the kids in. And we get some revenues for those students because they often require additional support. The next one is the big one, $750,000. That's the tuition numbers that I was telling you about from our tuition students who attend our high school. And then the last one you'll see is a secondary tuition, which is special education. And again, those are students that are tuitioned to us who might receive special services, and we receive an additional amount of money for those kids to help offset the cost of the services that they would receive. So you'll see the total there. If you drop down, you'll see $350,000 from our undesignated to help with this budget. We've been able to put $350 in for the last few years. It wasn't too long ago, we were only putting $160 in, but we were able to up that. COVID threw a curveball and everything, because people had COVID money, they didn't have to spend certain things out of their regular budget, so you had to budget for things. But if you have the additional dollars, you took the additional dollars and it built up your undesignated a little bit. We've also had a couple of years where we were unable to find staff because we were unable to find them. And so our expenditures didn't get hit as hard as they could have, and so a little bit of that flowed in. So we're in pretty good stead there with that. We feel confident that we can put $350 in again next year.
What's your total, Peter, for your
Total,
undesignated?
the total of the undesignated fund that is usable is about 858. Give or take a few, I don't have the number
That's
right in front of me.
undesignated only, correct?
That is undesignated, yes. That's right.
What is
But
it?
we're taking 350 of that 858 to put in here, so that's gonna be reduced.
Is there a formula on how much, is it 3% or 5% that you should be keeping a hold of?
That's a great question. After COVID, it jumped up to 9, and then it was 5 for several years, and it's still 5 right now.
So 5% would put you at what?
Well, you could carry over 5% from the year. I don't know
Okay.
what that would put me unless I
Yeah,
figure it out. Yeah.
just curious.
We are well within the guidelines of the 9 that we're allowed to have and the 5, well within that guideline. So when you look at the bottom line, the tax appropriation, which is the last line there, you'll see that after you subtract the revenues, all of the revenues from what the requests are, that you're looking at tax appropriation to the locals of 1.22% increase, which is 112,512.86. Having said that, there is one piece here that we still don't have, and that's our insurance cost. We won't know our insurance cost until April. For every percent that is less than 10, because we're budgeted at 10, we're budgeted at full amount here because we didn't want to get caught. For every percent less than 10, it's about $30,000. So if we come in at 8%, which it would be wonderful if we did, you take $60,000 off that amount. We have done a lot of things to get to this point. And this point is really what we truly feel is a needs-based budget, not a wants-based. So I open it up for questions if you have any.
Through the chair, if I might. Outside placement students, Peter, do you have any current students that are outplaced? Or do you have any students right now that are in the Winslow school system from outside the school
It's a
system?
great question, Ray, because I've got another piece to that I want to talk to you. I want to mention Christine.
Can I answer from here?
Yeah, absolutely, you can.
We do not currently have any out-of-district placements. We have self-contained.
Could you please speak in
You need
the
to speak in
microphone,
the mic.
please? Sorry. So everybody can hear. Thank you.
Hi, Christine Schmidt, Special Education Director. We do not currently have any high-cost out-of-district placements outside of the Winslow School Department. We have 3 self-contained day treatment programs within our schools that provide high-level services due to the staffing. We have some specialized professional development and training that occurs all through the year so that we can save a great deal on keeping those students within our district. So each student that we outplace is, there's a daily rate for all 11 out-of-district special purpose private schools in Maine. So each student that we outplace would be $67,000 to $110,000, depending on where they're placed per student, so. And then did you have a second part to your question?
No, it's just, one thing I do hear consistently through the town
Yeah.
is that Winslow has an excellent special ed program in that people move to Winslow because of it, and so I hear that a lot.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is a resource room and what is a self-contained room?
That's a really good question. So special education is classified least restrictive to most
Can you
restrictive.
pull the mic up? I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right. Special education is defined least restrictive to most restrictive, and that is a student who would be classified as resource spends 40% of their day in the general education setting. 60% in the special education setting. Self-contained is the opposite. So more than 60% is in special education.
When you're speaking about this population, are you talking about, I hope I get this right, the 504?
So 504 is, so section 504 is, that is a section of the America with Disabilities, ADA. And that provides accommodation. So that allows students to stay in their classrooms with accommodations.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out. The resource and the self-contained is
That
which
is
students,
special
which student,
education.
I'm sorry, which students are going to this resource and the self-contained?
Those are students identified with disabilities who need specially designed instruction through special education. Not just, so a student with a 504 plan might be a student with ADHD who just needs accommodations in the classroom, some frequent breaks, the opportunity to stand, so they can stay in their classroom with an accommodation plan.
So do behaviors separate these students?
Disabilities
Disabilities.
separates those students.
Okay.
Through the chair, when I went through the budget, I know I saw one little aspect of it, but there's no capital buses, no other things. I know you were gonna talk about that later, or is that something that later on in the presentation?
You mean a line for capital improvement, you mean?
Yep.
Or- Yeah, that was part of this.
Yep, okay, I'll wait.
But did you say buses?
Yeah. I said I didn't see buses, so,
We are requesting a bus.
Okay,
It's in there,
okay.
yeah, under transportation.
okay.
In the
okay.
transportation line, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and we
okay.
try to keep that cycle going every 5 years or so. It's
was
based
supposed
on the
to be
number of miles that the bus has, based on how many years it is.
Okay.
So we do have a bus so that we don't create a hole in our budget.
Yep,
for
thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's also a reimbursement model, Ray. We don't get the full reimbursement, but I think we get about 76% the following year when we do that.
Okay.
Through the chair, psychological services in all schools combined,
Sure.
and the salaries are $144,190. How many psychologists does this represent?
Yep. I would like to answer that one for you, because I think I've got some information for you that should be interesting to hear. It's two. And those psychologists are, Christine, stay right here, because those psychologists, they're responsible for evaluations. So students in special education have what they call 3-year re-evals every 3 years, and it's a cycle that continues. So a good quality evaluation by an outside psychologist can be of upwards to $2,335 an evaluation for one. We had 118 of those last year. So you take 118 and you multiply that by that number, I believe you're up to over $278,000. Both of our people are 147. So we have a tremendous savings by going this route.
You have two psychologists, that's what you're saying?
Two, that is correct.
That are bodies in your school system?
Bodies in our school system doing the work, doing these evaluations, yes.
And how many did you say they do?
Just as one part of their job, they did 118 last year because they're 3-year re-evals, which are required by statute.
And they're not doing them all at the same time? So it's
Can't.
118 between two people?
Absolutely. It takes a tremendous amount of time to do these evaluations. I sent a sheet to Mike in terms of what that looked like and the breakdown of that, the work that's involved in that.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I sent it to the rest of the council or not, but I thought I might have included everyone.
The hard question is, I've known that psychologists in the schools, can they still give medication to the child without the parent's consent?
They don't give any medication because they're not psychiatrists, they're psychologists.
Okay, how about psychiatrists? Do we have any of
We
those?
don't have any, no.
Do we have psychiatrists that come to our school
No,
from Kennebec Behavioral or anybody else?
no.
We don't have any of that?
When you say they're doing those tests, are you talking about IEPs or 504s, or are they all the same?
So a school-based psychologist, they can be a doctor. We are very fortunate in Winslow that they are PsyDs. They are at doctorate level psychologists. But a school-based educational psychologist, they cannot diagnose. So their job is to perform evaluations. So we have a referral question. A parent might call, or a school team might say, I think my child has a specific learning disability. Despite all of the interventions, they may not be making progress. So that sort of starts the special education process with the referral. And our school-based psychologists then complete standardized evaluations based on that referral question, looking only in the area of a specific learning disability. And then the IEP team sits down and determines if that student is going to qualify for special education only. We cannot diagnose. It really is for educational purposes only.
So no, they never get diagnosed with,
They can make a diagnostic impression.
Could you explain that, what you mean by that?
I can explain. So that means based on the results of the evaluation, they could still use the psychology manual of what constitutes a disability, and they can only make a diagnostic impression for educational purposes. So they can make recommendations if a student does have a specific learning disability on what they might need for learning instruction in the school.
so the psychologist, their job is just to see if they need an IEP?
So their job is
I'm just trying to figure out why we have a
these are
psychologist.
really,
What
it's
are they?
very confusing. So this is a mandate, so that those psychologists have to be qualified to complete the standardized evaluation.
So every school has psychologists.
Every school either has psychologists on staff, or they have to contract with a psychologist that's qualified to complete these evaluations. If you contract with someone, that bill can be upwards of $2,000 per student to complete a full evaluation. Psychologists on staff
What do you
receive
think
a
the cost
salary.
is with that? What do you think the cost is with that? To evaluate one student through the school, what do you think the cost is for that?
So I know what the cost is because we
that's
have
wonderful.
an invoice that we provided, and that was I think it was $2,137 for one student, because that
So it's
also
the same
includes
as using a contract.
through the school per evaluation.
Right. What is it costing the school to do those evaluations?
Oh, I've never broken it out hourly. That would be a prorated hourly.
Per student, what does you think it costs for the psychologist to do that part of it?
What
You
would
say
it
it's
per diem? We
2,000.
could do it by per diem if we knew what their per diem hourly rate was for their salary, and then multiply that by about 2.5 hours.
So it's 2.5 hours to do one
Just
evaluation?
to evaluate, then they have to write up the evaluation,
Right.
and then they attend the IEP meeting to do the report out for the parents and the IEP team.
Can you tell me what the code is, and I can look it up by the code?
The code.
The code for billing purposes.
Oh, my
That's
goodness.
what I do.
They're not billing.
We're not
You
billing.
don't-
We're not
You
billing.
don't have a code, but what's on that invoice?
I don't have the invoice. It's
Oh, I
something that I
thought she said
sent.
she had an invoice.
That would be for a contracted psychologist.
Okay.
Through the chair, just quick
They
math,
would
it's
have the
between
code.
1,500 and 1,700 per. Quick math,
About 1,700,
15 and 17.
and it's 2,000 if you contract it. But you're paying the psychologist no matter how many evaluations you're doing. Where a
Bingo.
contract, you would only pay them as you need them.
And we don't have to pay mileage
Well,
or,
we don't have to pay mileage, we don't have to pay other things. And if we had a situation where we only paid them as we needed them, we probably wouldn't have to, because that means we wouldn't have that many evaluations. When you get up to the numbers that we have, it's much cheaper to go this route. I want to share something with you, because I showed you a picture before with the snowplow and the school bus working together. I hear your concern, Mike. Mm-hmm. I do. I hear your concern. And I had a conversation with Christine before coming to this meeting last week, and I said, is there anything Is there any other way that we could fund one of these psychologists and take them out of the local budget, but still receive the services? And we were able to do that. We only have one in the local budget. The other one's being paid for out of local entitlement, which is federal funds. That's been removed. So that's our way to meeting your concern and meeting our concern. That's been removed.
So we're only paying for one.
That is correct.
Okay, the only thing that I'm concerned with is that it's happened to a school a couple years ago, that a person was receiving medication through the psychologist and without the parent's consent. That is a real big concern to me in this school here. If that was to happen, I'll tell you, I think we'd have a real problem here. And I think that there is still going through courts with that. I just want to make sure that kids are not going to get this.
Well, Mike, I can tell you that as long as I'm standing here, my knees aren't that great, but as long as I'm standing here, that's not going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question. Once a student's placed on an IEP, what benchmarks are in place? There's got to be benchmarks in place, and how are they achieving? Are they achieving their goals, or?
Yep, so every IEP has goals based on their disability, and we are required to report quarterly on those goals. So our special education teachers complete their quarterly progress reports, and we either hand them to classroom teachers to go home and report cards, or we mail them home with report cards. So
Do you have data to show the success of these programs?
So I was just audited by the Department of Education, who examines all of our IEPs, and they do look at our staircase goals of one student from kindergarten through 12th grade, if we have it available, to make sure that our students are making progress on their IEP goals.
And you don't have data for that, though, right? On how well we're doing with all that?
I have a rubric that the Department of Education gave us based on our IEP, and it was a 1 through 4 rubric, and we're a 3, with 4 being the best. So.
Thank you.
I think if you're asking how do our students who receive special services compare to other students in the state who receive special services on the assessments that I was bringing up, is that part of your question?
No, I know. I'm pretty sure you got some sort of a HAB plan or something where you have the goals you work on and then the goals you achieve, because you got an end result of whatever you're making, kids get strive in, right? So I was wondering if, with all of these programs that are in place with this special services that you guys provide, there's got to be some data somewhere on how well it's working, because we've been doing this for, over 10 years now at Winslow?
1973.
Wow, thank you. Much
74
longer than that.
is when it started.
So I'm just wondering.
That started statewide, that's not just Winslow.
No. But I'm just talking about, so comparing these programs to other, I don't care. I just want to know how we're doing here with the services that we're funding, the people are paying for, to see some results.
The other thing that I think I need to mention, when you say people are paying for, yes, I mean, the great leap is when you first get it started, because special education is on a reimbursement model. So you get that money back the following year on your 279, not all of it, but you get a great portion of it back because it's based on an expenditure model. So it's that first initial, if you're going to hire somebody, okay, you hire them, but the following year you get a tremendous percentage back on that person, and that money stays there as long as you keep that person in the budget. So it's just that first year that's that leap. But then the savings are there moving forward.
No, and that's all great, although the funds keep going back in every year, and you're getting it back, but I don't understand why we keep going up in it. But like the data that I was asking for, because of the data you showed for the, what's the correct word? I don't want to use the wrong word. The regular instruction for students, you showed all the data on how well Winslow does or how they could improve, but you have no data on all of these students, and you're talking about. Well, I just asked for some data, and we don't have it.
We have.
It's in the graph.
For math and science and reading?
They're all included.
If you go into the main data dashboard, on the left-hand side, you can look at subgroups. So you could toggle special education specifically and look at just special education in the state of Maine and how are Winslow special education students performing. What we were showing you were all students, including special education, to get them counted, so all kids
Right.
in grades 3 through 8 and grade 10. Where were they scoring in relation to all kids in the state of Maine? But we can drill down to
Well,
subgroups.
No, and that's fine. I was just the benchmarks and reaching goals and seeing how well the programs are working for them. I was just interested in that.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Any reason you picked those particular grades to do the scales and graphs and stuff on instead of elementary school versus junior high, or
Those are required from the state of Maine
just grade 3, 5, and 11?
for science.
Have any of the data for the rest of the students?
We do.
We do, that would be, our internal assessments that we might do in science.
But we also have, she's just talking about science. We also have reading and math.
Right, I was
That's-
just curious if we had numbers for all the students and all the grades instead of just 3 or 4
No, they ta-
specific grades.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's a great question. They do benchmark testing in that sense.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's where they're coming up with the numbers.
So we have our own internal assessments that we use to triangulate, so that we say, okay, we have this assessment, which Michelle just mentioned already. We have how are the students doing in the classroom. We have how are the students doing on the main 3-year assessment. And then you look at those 3 pieces and you start to triangulate things and you see if there's a disconnect someplace. That's how you stay on track.
Okay.
Great question, though.
Thank you.
Through the chair. So before I say anything, I just want to say that I really value all the work that everyone does in this room and all the effort and energy. And I wish I could take all the money away from the NFL and divvy it amongst all the people in this room.
One player would probably.
Well, I'm greedy. I want it all. Oh my gosh, did I just forget the question that I was going to ask? I did because I got nervous because I don't want to insult anyone. Well, I might just take a turn into a question that I do have just because I think I've lost the one that I had before. So you mentioned on your slide, Peter, that we spend about $19,573 per student.
That was according to that 24-25 on the main state reporting. Yeah.
Right. So if we have tuition students that are paying $15,126 to attend from other schools, it's about a $4,400 gap per student, which in math is not my specialty, but I think that's about $300,000 annually. So I'm curious if we understand that and what we're working to kind of offset that gap.
Not sure I understand your question. The gap between what our average is and what the state average is?
No, so our average is 19,000.
Yep.
And we have students that come from other towns you
Sure.
shared, right?
Yep.
And I think I noted that their tuitions are about $15,126 a student.
Yep.
So if we are paying 19,000 and change per student, but we're only recouping,
We're not paying anything?
well, our price per student?
Yep, yep, that's what it
I
costs
mean-
on average. So that student that's coming to us from another community and they're paying tuition, keep in mind that if that student was just our student, we'd be getting $9,222 from the state for that kit. That's what the EPS funding formula does. So there's a little bit more that's given to us
Yep.
because the tuition that's been established.
Okay.
Remember that if that student goes to the vocational school, we don't get the full amount.
Yeah.
We only get a portion of that. We actually get less, but the vocational school gets something.
Okay,
When we look at an average,
yep,
there are students who require a lot more resources to be successful in school.
okay,
And students who require, the tier 1 regular kinds of things. When you average that together, I think that's where you see that
Okay.
number. That's
all
not,
right.
I doubt literally per child, because there is a
But it's
range
probably
of students
close.
and children need, right?
Okay,
The other thing, Katie, I want to mention to you is that, when we have students from another community that come to us and as a tuition student, if there are any special ed costs attached with that student, that cost comes, they pay that cost to us.
okay.
That's why when you saw at the bottom of that revenue sheet, you saw that it got increased to $75,000 because we've been getting some students that need the services, and we get the additional cost for that. It's not a cost to the local taxpayer. We get that additional revenue to help with that.
Okay, thank you.
Schools, the revenues schools receive with their students. If your student population is dropping and your property valuation is going up, you're in trouble because the state considers you a richer community and they don't provide the support.
Through the chair. Well, so you mentioned that exact thing, and I made a note of that too because I was curious, because we are going to go through a property evaluation. Our assessor shared that during the budgeting process. And so you said that we are expected to have about 10 million state subsidy, and I'm curious how much that could change based on the upcoming evaluation.
Well, I have no idea how bad, how that upcoming evaluation, because I think you've already did the heavy lifting. You did an evaluation a few years ago that hadn't been done for 10 years or more. And so there was a lot of heavy lifting that last time this was done. I suspect at this next evaluation, it won't be as big a significant factor. So it should not affect us as much as the last time, which unfortunately a lot of people didn't understand, and they blamed the schools for that. We had nothing to do with the evaluation of the properties. People should be happy that their properties are worth more, because if you're going to sell them, you want to get what they're worth, right?
Yeah.
With the chair.
If I could.
Please,
If I could.
please come up to the,
that.
please go up to the mat, please, Joel. Thank you.
Could, just, I think this is clarification of that point, Katie, was that the increase in valuation, even if our town valuation does go up through the statistical revaluation thing that everybody does on a regular basis, I think the bigger factor is how does our valuation in our town change versus every other town in the state? Because it's a matter of how the money the state shares toward the 55% of education across the state. The valuation is based upon the valuation of every town in the state, and how do we compare to others? So if our valuation goes up the same as everybody else, it really won't be much of a change. Everybody's valuation goes up. But if our valuation went up faster than the state average, then it would hurt us, but that hasn't been the case. So.
Through the chair. I just have a quick question, Peter. And I have to apologize, I'm recovering from an ear infection, so I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You have a total of 224 staff at the 3 schools, the elementary?
Total.
Okay.
Yeah. And that staff is everybody,
Okay.
everybody.
Thank you. I wrote 105 for the elementary, 34 for the junior high, and 64 for the high school. That only totals 203. So there's 21 missing positions.
Yeah, there
whereas-
is.
Slide
There
also
is.
indicated
Yep.
central office and transportation, and that was
Okay.
21, so.
We have 10 bus drivers.
I'm
10
sorry, I
bus
have to
driver.
apologize. I never received the full packet, so if you could send that to me electronically, I'll print that out at home.
The full packet of the,
For
But-
tonight's, I only received a portion of the packet. So, I'd like something tangible in hand.
the full budget packets that I delivered, the last day that I delivered them with Mark.
Right.
And in there, everything would have been included. You would have had the full thing. You wouldn't have 10 bus drivers in there. This is the information that I'm providing with you tonight.
Okay.
That's the extra, because we can't possibly go over 1,227 lines in detail with you prior to this meeting. That's the purpose of this, is for you to ask those questions, and it's a great question, and that's the answer. There's 21 extra people.
Thank you.
Peter, I have a question on the IEPs. Are parents and guardians fully aware when a student's going to have an IEP?
Absolutely. They get notifications, they get letters, they're invited to the meeting.
Can
Absolutely.
they opt out of an IEP if they want to?
Can the parent opt out? Absolutely, they can.
Excellent, thank you.
I was looking at, and you're saying, in Maine, we're above average or average. I have something here in math, of course, in Winslow, and it would say that we're 53.7% above and 46.3% below. So Maine actually has 49.4% that is above, and then 50 50.6% below. The interpretation of that says Winslow's slightly better than the state, but nearly half of the students are below expectations throughout the country. So with that being said, what have we done? And that's just in math. Science is the same way. Winslow's 39.3% at above expectations in Maine and 60.7% below in the country. So Maine statewide, 36.2% at above and 63.8% below. Interpretation again, Winslow slightly above, better than the state, but 60% of the students still not meeting expectations in this country. What can we do to make that better in this town here? Not just to be the expectations of Maine, but I think the expectations of this country.
I think you might be comparing apples to oranges just a little bit in terms of the state assessments that are administered and the assessments that they give nationally.
Country measure.
Michelle, come up to the mic, please.
Good evening, Michelle
Yeah.
Lake, Curriculum Coordinator. So I'm not sure where you're coming with up with the country figure. The state of Maine has its own Maine learning results, Maine state standards, and every state has its own. So we are comparing ourselves with our state standards.
Okay.
There isn't a national measure that we use.
Sherry, can you help us out on that?
I don't have any figures on national.
You don't have that on the
I don't.
nationals?
I think from what I read, if you're comparing national, or not national, excuse me, Maine, I think he's trying to compare
Yeah.
Winslow's numbers to the Maine
Correct.
numbers. And the Maine numbers are very bad. So Winslow, if they are showing fairly good numbers, or they've got a weak base to be comparing it to. So in all reality, they're not doing as high a standard.
I would like to have Michelle just talk a little bit about the difference between the national program that we ask students to get selected from.
NAEP?
It's a random sampling, which is, I believe, what he's
Are
referring to.
you referring to NAEP?
Yes.
Okay. So the NAEP assessment is a national assessment that's given for students in grades 4, 8, and I think it was 11. I'd have to look. We were randomly selected for that last year in grade 4. We were selected again this year randomly for grades 4 and 8. So our students take that assessment, and I think we were picked for reading and math. I don't think we were tagged for science. And those scores are, our elementary kids have already done that. Junior high kids have already taken it and so forth. So that goes off, and NAEP takes a look at that and talks about Maine nationally. We do not ever get those results. There is no way for us to take Winslow scores out of that to look at. That's very different for us than looking at the Maine through-year assessment, which is our state assessment against the Maine learning results.
I
Okay.
might also add, Mike, that
Yeah.
that assessment, the students are randomly selected, and parents can opt out. So you may have had, how many kids take it?
30.
30 kids total, and they were randomly selected, not all of them. So if
So
you
they
think-
based it on just 30 kids instead of the...
whoever they randomly selected is who they base it on. So,
Right, in every state.
in every state.
Well, the other question that I had, I see in your budget that you actually cut money out of the arts and English. We took some money out, you took some money out of that as far as the subjects of English. Is it English, history, and art?
No,
Which
there's,
line are you looking at, Mike?
Oh, wait a minute. Get back. Do you remember that page, Sherry?
it's in regular instruction programs, such as art, English, math, vocal, student, and field trips, the cuts and field
Do you
trips.
have a school that you're looking at in particular?
I'm trying to
That's
find
where we
it.
got it from.
Yeah. It's very hard. It's very,
The elementary.
it was the elementary.
It's actually in all of them, junior high and
So
high
one of
school.
the, Title I, because that's where.
Yep,
okay.
yes.
So we also receive title funds. We, in Winslow, receive Titles 1 and 4. We used to receive Title 5, we're no longer eligible for that. Title I programming is for literacy, math, and reading literacy.
Yeah.
we have an eligible school is our elementary school, and we operate a school-wide program. So those funds can be used school-wide to support learning. We pay for 4 ed techs and 2 teacher specialists out of our Title I programming. And then what we do is we go through the local budget and we look for anything that the titles could legally cover to save in our local budget. For example, if a second grade class is asking for some additional classroom grade level reading material, that is something that if I have it in the title budget, I could take that out of the local budget, and we know we can still provide that for kids, and we can pay for that with Title I. You'll see in our budget professional development, a lot of that, I'm sorry, we get Title II as well. So Title I, II, and IV, my apologies. Title II is for professional development. So if a teacher has requested a conference, or we want to have some writing specialists, for example, come in and work with our faculty on that area, we can use some Title II funds to support that learning. So you may see some reductions because we were able to do that with our title money.
So you were able to cover those things there with your title money, is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying.
The ones that you're cut, the ones that you have cut?
I'd have to know specifically which ones you're referring to, but that is
I'll get
something we're
those for
able
you.
to do.
It's
yes.
been very hard,
Learning Without Tears was one, yeah.
it's been very hard to understand the budget. I'd like to see a line-by-line itemized budget, so we know exactly what all the teachers are getting paid. That's why I'd like to I'd ask for a FOIA request. That way they would have a better understanding, because when we get these budgets, I mean, we only have a couple days to look at it. It's almost impossible to get and retain all that information and trying to figure it out. It's really, really hard for us to do that. So that's what I'm going to ask for, having a FOIA request, so we can do that a lot better and be a better understanding for us.
Mike, I think I need to ask you respectfully,
Yeah.
to explain how knowing what each of our teachers makes is going to help you with the budget. Because I've already explained what our cost per pupil is. That takes into consideration our salaries, our benefit, everything. That takes that into consideration. We're lower than the state. I've explained the piece about class sizes. That takes all of that into consideration. I don't understand how that information is going to help you, because our teachers are under a contract, just like they are with everybody else. Just all teachers are under contracts. And I gave you the information where you would find that information, starting salaries for teachers, ending salaries based on their degrees. All of that information is in there. So having that information, I'm not sure how that's going to help.
I think just to play very respectfully, it's public information.
Oh, it is
It's
public.
public, so if he's asking for it, it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Absolutely, but you know, it is public information. It absolutely is. But it's the first time I've ever had that request in 17 years. And I think when you start making those types of requests, when they're negotiated contracts, I think people who are doing this difficult work for you are beginning to question why. Why are you asking that question? Because, and you don't want to plant the seed of doubt in these people's minds.
The fire department, the police department.
Sure.
All our municipals, everybody knows
Yeah.
all the wages
We
and
just,
everything. When you
we
have
just went through that
80%
very
of it.
difficult task of the salary, and it's very difficult because you don't want to make anybody feel like they're not worthy or whatever, however you want to say it. And you don't even want to talk about the individual, you just want to talk about the positions. He's not asking for
That's fine.
yours or just the positions.
That is fine. But again, I ask, what do you think would come of it? How will that help or hurt this budget?
When you're looking at budgets and having to make possible cuts or approving budgets, that's, how much do you think you spend in salaries a year?
I know exactly what we spend
What
in
is it?
salaries a year.
about 80%.
80% salaries and benefits.
So that's very
included.
important for the people who pay towards the school to
Absolutely.
understand. That's just to get an understanding.
Yeah, I don't want to argue with that point, Fran, but I guess the point that I'm trying to make is the individuals who are in there are individuals that are needed to get the job done to support your kids. If I look at a slide that Chad Bell had a few years back, when we have a situation where we don't need certain individuals, we make those adjustments. And that's something that I think you need to entrust us in doing, since we run the school district.
Well, the public runs the school district, so if the public wants some of that information.
The school board,
Yeah, but we pay
Runs.
it as taxpayers and everything. We fund it. It comes from a community. It's a public thing.
Take
It's
for-
just,
take-
there's no point in arguing over it, in
Oh,
my
I-
opinion.
Adam, I'm
If
not
it's asked
arguing.
for it,
I'm not arguing. I'm just
why-
trying to, I'm just
why
trying
do
to
we
seek
need to make a
clarity.
big
It's a
deal?
public-
I'm just trying to seek clarification as to how it's going to help. Because the number that we've presented you, typically how this would work is that at the beginning of the budget season, I would get some information saying, here's our revenues from the town, this is a tough year, we need X, Y, and Z from the town. We think we can have this much money to support our schools, see if you can hit that number. I received no information about what the number is, so we came in with the lowest possible thing we could do, $112,000. And I'm telling you that if our insurance rate comes in, that number could be reduced to $60,000 on a $21 million budget. How?
I think if Mike feels he needs certain numbers, that's Mike. We're not all
Absolutely.
asking for that.
Absolutely. I'm
But
just
here's
sa-
an example. I found in reading your budget's very, very difficult to try to figure out.
It's a difficult budget.
And that's why I've got notes from what I was able to pick out. Like, here's one example. How many guidance counselors makes up the 190,000 expenditures in the salaries? How many? That doesn't even tell you how many guidance counselors you have, and I'm talking about just the Winslow High
Well-
School. So it's like,
Get my book,
if
please.
they're under contracted services for guidance, what does the behavioral, the Kennebec behavioral contract comes into it under guidance. So if
Sure.
you've got guidance counselors, why are you also paying for Kennebec behavioral health? You don't have any numbers on the individuals. How many guidance counselors make up that 190,000? So that, to me, rather than know exactly what everyone's making, I don't care, but I'd like to know how many people you're paying in that department. How many,
I think we did send that.
well,
So-
I didn't
so-
find it anyway.
But Fran, you make an excellent point. You make an excellent point. That's the purpose behind having this meeting tonight, because we cannot. We have been working on this budget since January, going over all of these lines with everybody. The purpose of this meeting tonight is to clarify those questions. Guidance counselors. So when we look at this, at the elementary school, we have one guidance counselor, Tom. At the junior high,
Well, it's misleading because
go ahead. Yep. No, it's misleading because we share.
Jason Briggs, principal at the junior high school. And the junior high budget, page 14, just as an example, line 188, you will see this, it says salary teacher. That is my school counselor who I share. So that is a portion of a salary because that individual is shared with the elementary school.
What was that amount? I want to know if it's what I already took down in my notes, that's all.
Page 14 of 21 for the junior high school budget, line 188, titled Salary Teacher.
I can't even find it.
So my point being, there is a cost there of
What is it?
$60,181. That is the portion that individual works for the junior high.
And he's shared with the.
She is shared for the
She, I'm
elementary.
sorry. She is shared with the elementary.
So while
I've
it
got-
looks-
I've got 93,000 for one, so I don't know where that
So,
money's
okay,
coming
so
from.
that's just an example of one individual, and I, at the junior high, share many staff, band, chorus, PE, art, that go building to building. So in my budget, you'll see portions of a salary of a teacher.
Which in defense of Mike, that doesn't explain, that's very hard to follow what your budgets are.
Right,
that's
and
all.
and
They-
we have more slides that would break down 0.5, 0.8 of the percentage, but just for clarification for the junior high school, if that's helpful.
Through the chair, where we have an aging town, and I don't think, I can't see how we can sustain these costs and rises I mean, these people here, we have people that in Winslow, and I've had one just recently said, you know, if we go up any more in taxes, even after that big one, she says, I won't be able to be in my house anymore. This is a big concern to me, and it's not anything against you people, because I think you guys are doing a great job, but we have to figure out a way to try to lower this cost. And we've even done it at this municipal level too, but I think we ought to do this also in the school. And we have to find a way in doing it and trying to help these elders so they don't have to move out of their house.
Mike,
And I think if you give us a line by line, help us understand where all this money is, and maybe we can work something out. But right now, it's very hard to understand because I'm missing something here.
Mike, honestly, no disrespect, honestly. When you ask for line by line, our ADS software has produced that for you. That's what you have. That's the line by line. The information that makes up those lines are held in notebooks, are held on spreadsheets with principals, are held with teachers, because it's a draft budget. So when you see $368 for supplies, that allows the teacher the creativity to change a lesson plan over the course of the year, because they can't possibly tell you, I need 36 paper clips and 42 pencils right now, because they're going to have students that come to them with certain needs, and they're going to need something different. They're going to have to change that. So I can't give you any more detail unless you sit down with the building principal and go through all of their books with what the teachers have produced. And that's going to take forever. This needs to be a trust factor that the teachers and the administrators have worked together to put a budget together. The line by line is there. If there's a particular line that you're concerned about, like you asked about the title, the deductions in English supplies, that was a great question, great pickup. And the answer is no. We haven't taken anything away from our kids. We found a way to provide them what they need without using local taxpayer dollar. That's what we do to keep these amounts down.
Okay, through the chair. Another thing that I saw, what's that I want to say, is the field trips. That was all cut out. So the kids don't have any more field trips anymore?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
That's
And that's
the
a
way
great
it's said
question.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a great question. And you won't find that on any line item. You'll find that in one of our books, because we know why that's been cut out. What we've done with that is, if it's a field trip that is educational in nature, that has to do with the curriculum, that comes out of the transportation budget because we get a better return. In other words, at the end of the year, there's an amount of gas that is used, an amount of time that we pay the drivers that includes the day-to-day transportation and the extra field trips. So if it's a curriculum field trip, we don't keep it in our budget. It goes into the transportation budget. At the end of the year, they make an adjustment to that budget so that we get a better return for the taxpayers when we get reimbursed on the $279. If it's a field trip that is not curriculum related, like reward to the beach at the end of the year kind of thing for grade 6, you'll see that still in those lines. You'll see that money still there, because there are two different categories. But once again, that is an attempt to save money to the Winslow taxpayer.
But when we read it, it looks like you've cut it out. So that's why,
Organizing it differently so that it comes out of the transportation budget, and that way we'll get a better return on it.
no, I hear what you're saying, but when you hand us these budgets, please don't get upset when we start asking
I'm not
questions you
upset.
may feel difficult, because it's not in there. You just said it's not even in there. So when we look at it, it looks like it's
Sure,
cut out.
sure.
You're not doing field trips. That's
Right.
what we read.
Right, and I'm not getting angry. I'm passionate about what I do.
Sure.
I'm passionate about the kids in this community.
Right.
So what I'm trying to explain, and I'm not doing a good job of it, there is no line by line in the data system, but that's not how the data system works. All that information is in notebooks with the principals, with the teachers. And some of those things are looked at and said, okay, I might not know how many Band-Aids I'm gonna need as a nurse. But I do know every year I spend $300 worth of supplies. So I put $300 because every year, and I'm making that number up, Fran, but because they don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have a question. Again, it's salaries. I'm not asking for the amount. I'm just, are teachers getting contractual increases in pay this year?
They're on a 3-year contract agreement, yes.
Okay. And if so, do you know what the percentage of increase is this year?
Not off the top of my head, but I could get it for you.
Our contracts are online and it does say the increase for each year.
But that factors into your budget, right?
Correct.
Right. So I couldn't find it. That's why I'm asking you. Again,
But
it's hard to be handed your budget and then not find what we're trying to find, that's all.
Can I ask a question?
If you stand up there,
Okay, sure.
so everyone can
I'm
hear.
asking this more as a resident than I am as a.
Well, no, then you can't. I'm so
Okay, then I'm asking
sorry.
I'm asking a school employee then.
There you go.
Okay.
That's just a
So Mike, I heard
rule
you,
we have.
Mike, I heard you talk about the tax base. So we're up slightly above 1%. And you tell me the town's down on your expenditures? Because he's making it sound like you want to lower taxes. So is the town below? That's kind of what you said.
I don't want to raise the taxes here in Winslow, but the way
Right, so
that this.
my question is the town expenditures gone down this year?
No,
What
it
are you
has-
talking about, the municipality?
Yeah, because I mean, he's saying that.
Yes.
So they below last year's expenses?
We went, no, we had to cut back on this year for what they were asking.
But
We
what are they
went
up?
down.
What are they up?
We've increased, but that's due to like emergency services, so the paramedics to fill the ambulance and such. So
Okay.
I guess I say this as a person who works for the school but also lives here. This man, I'm going to say this, this man has tortured over this budget, and he's bringing you in a budget that's only $112,000. It could go down to as low as $50,000 with taxes, and you're grilling him. And this man has spent hours doing this. And I mean, look at other school budgets. Open the paper about Coney. Coney's going to be up, how much? 9.2, and this man's going to get you under
They're
1%.
4 times the size
and you're
of this
making him.
school.
I mean, I'm sitting there going.
Coney's 4 times the size of this school.
But it's still a cost per student.
Sure. And I
mean,
hear your frustration.
And guys,
We
what I
all
want to
do.
say about this, I'll say another thing about this. We have people that tax are tough, but you can't, I mean, as a community, you want to bring people into your community. One of the ways to do it is to offer good municipal services and good school systems. Otherwise, this town's going to be, are we going to be one of those towns that close down, just has nothing in here? I mean, I get it. You're fiscally responsible, which I run my house like that. And I'm not asking you to be progressive, but you got, when a person brings you in a budget that could be as low as $50,000 above, I would think you're asking for $800,000 the way he's being grilled.
He's not being grilled.
you
He's
know,
just asking
and guys,
questions.
you can go to the internet and you can Google every employee at Winslow schools. I mean, it takes 2 seconds. If you're really curious, and I'll give you the name. If you're
We're
really
not worried
curious.
about every other school. We're just talking
No,
about Winslow
Winslow.
today.
You could go Google
We're
Winslow.
talking about Winslow.
Right, you could Google Winslow school employees, and
Okay.
it would tell you every employee's salary, including mine, including anybody. And like Peter said, we're just paid what the going rate around the area is. We're not paid what Cape Elizabeth, and you can say, well, Jim, you're not paid what Caribou is. Okay. But again, I just can't believe a budget that's only $50,000. I'd like to hear from some of the other counselors. I mean, the two in the middle doing a great job, fiscally responsible. Let's hear from some other people.
First of all, thank you very much for speaking, but nobody has to be forced to speak.
No,
If
no,
you've got a
Oh, I have
question
plenty
or
to
something
say.
you'd like to
I'm just
discuss.
waiting for the right opportunity.
If I might, through the chair.
Yes.
Mark, how much is the municipal budget up this year? Is it close to 500,000, I think?
yeah, at least. I mean, with let's see, the ambulance. What was the other big ask? The extra work for like the Wyman Bog Road. But again, when you're dealing with infrastructure needs, I don't want to make comparisons between municipal and this school.
And tonight we're talking,
honestly-
I
and tonight.
understand that.
and-
I'm
Right.
just, there
But
was a
tonight
question
we-
that was asked. and so
Listen,
I'm asking
I'm
that
sorry,
question.
I am the chair and you will just let me speak.
Yeah, sure.
We're not talking about the municipal budget. We are talking about the school budget. So let's all stay focused on the school budget.
The increase,
May I speak? As a board member, may I speak before we continue? Please, briefly? Not-
Sure.
No, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, my name's Taylor West. I'm a school board member, and I wanted to just highlight also what was talked about here with the work that Peter's done. This is my first time on a board, and I've definitely learned a lot this year thanks to Peter. And I I think grill is a hard word, but as someone that has been a part of this work, words have meanings. And I think that when you tell people that have been putting work like this in, that you're going to FOIA them when all of this is online, I think that is kind of forceful and it's unnecessary. And I hope that all of you go watch the budget workshops, because the budget workshops do go line by line, and those conversations were had very diligently. And I was surprised that you guys weren't there for some of those meetings. I was hopeful you would be, because that would be like a great opportunity for us to go back and forth about these things there. And then you would see how these break down and why these decisions are made and all of those answers that and I don't mean to be rude, but I'm sitting here thinking that we talked about that day. We talked about that day. So I really hope that people go watch those videos that are online, because it'll answer a lot of your questions. And I hope that we can get through this without being contentious, because I am so profoundly proud of being a part of this. And Peter is astounding. And I just want to make sure that everyone gets their flowers at the end of this, and that we do look back at the work that's been done, because I don't want to sound preachy, but I learned in the service, and I'm sure you can kind of attest to this, that micromanaging is never a good thing for people that you trust. And we're elected officials and professionals, and we have been put in positions of trust. And I hope that you will trust us, that you don't need to look at 1,200 line items, because we did it for you. And that's all I really want to say, is that we don't need to micromanage like that, because the answers are there. So
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Through the chair.
One moment, just one moment. No, you're good, I'm sorry. I want to say something. We are not questioning or not trusting. We are doing what we, as elected officials, were sent here to do. We are representing each of our districts. We are not critiquing, but do not think, because it's been done in the past, that just because means absolutely. It's not happening anymore. In these times right now, this year of economic struggles and standings, we have to do this. We don't want to do this. We appreciate every single one of you. We respect Peter the same way you just said. But please don't insult our positions either. And my turn, sorry. I am so sorry, really. But it's getting to be a little heated, and everybody's taking things the wrong way. When we ask a question, it's a question not for us. It's a question we're asking on behalf of the people of this town. And make no mistake, I understand the saying of strong schools make strong communities. I believe it's the other way around. You need a strong community to build a strong school. You can have the best school in the world, but if people can't afford to live here, they're not coming. So please, everybody, including myself, is getting upset. I apologize for that. That was very inappropriate. I'm very sorry. And if we still have more, we should move on instead of
If I may, through the chair.
tit for tat.
Mike, did you?
Yeah, I did
Okay,
have something.
sorry.
For one thing, I announced it today, but Peter got an email from me about having a FOIA request, and I wanted a line-by-line item. I didn't say FOIA, but he did receive it 2 weeks ago, and it was all the councilmen got it. So this is the only time that I've done it since then. Other than that, if I would have got the line-by-line item at that time, we wouldn't be discussing this right now. Nor did I get an answer.
Through the chair.
Well, that is not exactly.
No, we're not, please,
Well,
guys, come on.
You got an answer, Mike. I wrote you a very detailed email in my response as to why.
And
of
how,
what-
and
what I
why
did.
was that?
I wrote you a very detailed response to the answer to the
I'll
question
go
that
to-
you have.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes,
I do want to say thank everyone here for all of your hard work. We're not here to question the integrity of your work. Bottom line is always money. We've had 30 residents this year behind on their property taxes. So I raised 4 children here in Winslow. I moved from Waterville specifically to Winslow to raise my children in the Winslow school system. I moved because they had a great great education, great sports, great services. That's why I moved here 35 years ago now. So it's not about the integrity of your work or what you do, because speaking as a mom of 4 children that all graduated from Winslow, I appreciate every single one of you. With that said, Sherry, out of those 30 residents who are behind on their property taxes, what is the number now of residents behind on their taxes?
She
Are
would.
you talking
would
about
have
the
to-
foreclosures list?
No, just people behind on their
Sherry's not
taxes.
going to have that. She's the
No,
finance director.
That's,
That would be,
I think Ray's gonna have the floor now.
thank
Ray's
you.
gonna have the floor.
Yeah.
So thank
I'm
you
just
anyways.
Trying to look at, we could go back and forth, I think, for the rest of the evening at this point in time. When I look at the budget, when I look at the work put into the budget and the increase, feel fine with the increase that's there for the school budget. So I think they've done a good job. If members of the council feel that because of the mill rate or because of hardships, then we need to determine at this point what is an acceptable number that we can give back to Peter so that he can either make cuts and determine what effect that would have on the school. So I think we're at that point. And I want to repeat that I'm okay with this, but what is the end result here? Are we going to decrease the school budget?
I think if everybody's finished with their questions, or we can take a consensus on how many people feel the budget presented is acceptable. Who's a consensus on who would accept the budget as presented tonight? You can do that.
And through the chair, what do we feel is acceptable?
Well, first we got to figure out if we want to accept it or not.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes.
So I want to try to say this as tenderly as I can, just because, obviously this is a near and dear to everyone's heart. I have a child in Winslow Elementary School, so I'm living this, real time, and he's received some really amazing care and support, and I'm happy to have him there. I moved to this town to put him there. I don't need the line by line. That's not something that I specifically need. But I think as I'm new here and I'm taking all of this in and I'm trying to understand kind of our journey. And again, assessments are what they are, but it's data that we have. Since 2020, every single year, we have progressively gone down in our scores. We pulled the information for special ed out as well, so we do have the data there, and I'm curious about if those tests align, but we can talk about that after. I guess my biggest question or concern or wonder is about the effectiveness of some of the strategies maybe that we're using. I look at some of the budget and some of the investment in digitizing instruction. And there's, to me, as a parent who's experienced the impacts that can have on my own child, I worry about that. Because I don't think anything replaces a good teacher who can sit down next to that child and know them and give them exactly what it is that they need. Now, is that a pie-in-the-sky wish? It might be. But you also said at the very beginning in your wonderful presentation, very thorough, that you've been doing this process for 17 years. And I'm not an accountant, but I know sometimes you have to take a budget and blow it away and just say what works for now, for today, right? And so if we're using this exact same template every year and just kind of trying to adjust every category, are we channeling things in the right direction that we need to in order to make sure that those resources, which I don't want to not give the school a dollar, trust me when I say that, right? But our children, their attention spans are lowering, their ability to intake information is in jeopardy. They go home and they have screens in front of their faces all day long. And so I just wonder, and maybe I'm not an expert, but I just have curiosity about if we have the same amount of money, great. What can we do differently with that money that will help set us apart, because Maine is struggling holistically as a state, competing against the other states in the country. And we all know that the children we raise here don't necessarily stay here, they leave. And then they have to go and compete with all of those other human beings in the world who maybe had a different educational experience than they did. And so, again, as someone who's new here, not an accountant, not a teacher, that's where my wheels have been spinning, which is, what can we do differently than we've been doing for the last 5 years so that we can change things? Because when you do what you've always done, you get what you always got, right? And so that's just...
Katie, I could not agree with you more with what you're saying, but I think maybe I was, when I said 17 years, that's a cycle and process that we look at to see how our kids are doing, to establish our goals. It's not how we put our budget, you know what I'm saying? So when you say, in terms of when we look at our data, we are doing things differently. Michelle is providing a professional amount of professional development by having outside presenters come in, by having presenters come in and talk about our math scores, about our math series and what we're doing. All of those things are happening, and we are seeing growth in our students. We have that data through iReady that we can demonstrate growth through our students throughout the course of the year. We're seeing that. This, one of the scales that I showed you showed math growth from 22 on. You see the growth that is occurring. Part of the problem when you look at scores from 20 is that there were different tests. So you can't really compare them because it's apples to oranges. You can't compare those two. So you have all of that. If I may address, the concern about the monies. Last year, you said you can't keep doing this because you have 30 people who can't pay their taxes, and I'm truly sorry about that. We're really working hard at working with our kids so that they can position themselves so that they do well in life, right? So the thing I want to point out is that, just as a reminder, last year we brought you a budget that was $242,093 less than the previous year to the local taxpayer. We have reduced things and cut things. This year our budget is our request is 112. That doesn't even make up what we took away from last year. And I'm telling you, this budget could be a little bit less once our insurance costs come in. So I hear everything that you're saying. Absolutely hear everything that you're saying.
Through the chair.
Mark.
So I hear a lot of passion from everyone in this room, which is pretty amazing for me to actually sit here in this position after going through my budget workshops and understanding the process. And something that's clear to me, and conversations I've been having with people, is I think it's the budget as a whole for the town. We're talking municipal, we're talking school. We're getting to a point of no return for the town as a whole. So I in no way want the school to feel targeted, just as I don't want to feel targeted on the municipal side. So I think something's clear to me. I don't think Peter and I have worked closely enough together in the last 6 months. I came on a little late in the season, just a couple months before the budget season even began, and then we hit the ground running. So, I'll take my ownership and the accountability on my end for that being the case. But I think moving forward, especially this year, getting through this season and getting prepared for FY28, I'm starting to feel like we need to have a mission together. We need to work together to figure this out as a town. Mm-hmm. I have extreme concerns, and I voiced this to the counselors. I voiced this to residents. I've told my staff, even the growth in the asks that we had on our level. Something that really sucks about emergency services, even though there's a little bit of revenue when it comes to the ambulance, you pay. You don't earn. You pay for these services. Schools, in a lot of ways, are a similar thing. And for me, this has been a challenging position to actually sit here, hear the passion from a council that obviously cares about the taxpayers, hear the passion from the school system that cares about the children. Everyone's arguing for the same thing. We're arguing on behalf of the town. So I'm glad everyone started kind of settling in and kind of resetting where we're at. I'm feeling a little bit of high energy over this too, because again, we all care. I'm a father too, and this really matters to me as well. But if there's anything clear to me, I think moving forward, I think the assessment needs to be looking at the town as a whole and trying to find a way to minimize where we're going, because we are getting to a point of no return for residents in this town. And I had to think about that as well when it came to my ask on behalf of the municipal side. And that is a hard pill to swallow. This is hard to navigate. I relate with you, Peter, and I relate with all of you that worked on this budget. It sucks. It sucks to go through this process. It is hard. We're asking for residents that are barely able to afford to live in this town to continue to pay. It's an impossible ask. And again, I'm represented on the municipal side too. I did this as well when I went through this process. So, it may not solve the answers right now, but I wanted to kind of make a note that moving forward, I think we need to be a little more unified. I think we need to figure this out as a town together and stop separating the two. We both have massive asks. You have a little less than 2/3 of the entire budget for the municipality, which is an enormous amount for a town of 8,000 with, again, it's a bedroom community. We're lacking infrastructure, businesses, something that is important to me that I hope in the next couple of years I could assist in bringing to the town to offset those costs for the taxpayers. But where it stands right now, again, I had to sit there and back up Chief Murphy when it came to these asks for paramedics, because again, it's important to me to make sure that our families have these supports. We can't keep climbing, though. And so, you did come with a fiscally responsible budget. I don't mean to speak for you, but in this sense, I don't think they're targeting it. To come in at 3.33 is incredible. I think it's because we're at that 21 million. Just on the municipal side, if we're at that 13 to 15 million, I think as together a $35 to $37 million budget for a town like Winslow, we're getting to a point that it's too high. And I'm not going to pretend to sit here and say that I have the answers right now on how to solve this, but it may get to a point, and I never want to see this happening in the future. If we keep climbing and we get to a point where we're at a $40 million budget, are we now cutting services? Are we now getting rid of a police department? Are we cutting the ambulance and everything else that we're growing? Are we getting rid of those just as quickly as we added them? Are we now cutting extra special services for the school? These are extreme concerns I do have on behalf of everyone in this room and everyone in this town. So I'm hopeful once we get through this process, and we will, that I think I'm now getting a little bit more realigned with where I want to go as a town manager for this town, my responsibility to everyone, and I think Peter's responsibility to the school system. I think we need a bigger solution on how to fix this. And that's my rant.
I think you were spot on with the revenues, bringing in companies and businesses and stuff to help offset taxes.
Yeah.
Then the asks wouldn't seem so bad, or any of the numbers wouldn't seem so bad if it didn't affect individuals as much. It's
Sure.
easier. I hate to say it for corporations, but it's easier for them to absorb, a little taxes here and there versus a single income or a retired couple or, somebody trying to raise kids or anything like that. It's tough.
And I'll save it for the town council meetings on what I'm trying to do actively on the municipal side. But I just wanted to add that I appreciate everybody in this room, and I hope we could to actually work together on this. And again, just be respectful. That's all I'm hoping we could do.
I think the focus point tonight was never, this isn't a good budget. It was never. That's not the focus point. The focus point we can't get away with. If this budget doesn't change, or if we approve it, great. If not, our mill rate's going to be pushing 17 from 14.85. That's all I see is how will people afford their homes. You don't realize that's a lot of money for some people. That could go up $1,000 for some people a year. They can't afford what they have now. So when I look at your budget, it's a great budget. And you guys are providing great services and education and everything. I can't get past the numbers. That's where I'm stuck at. And as being a part of who I represent, that's what I'm speaking for on behalf of the people who can't do it anymore. We give what? Almost 60% of property taxes goes to the school. People can't do it anymore because they're not getting their roads paved. They're not getting everything else, but they're paying an awful lot, and it's all going to the school. And it is important. But so you said 1,200, 1,100 kids? What about 8,000 people that live here? They all matter. Everybody matters. So it's the numbers for me. And I'm sorry, Peter, because I think this is a great budget. I just have we did the same thing with the municipal. It was very difficult to sit there and face everybody and say no. It was very, very hard.
I agree.
Through the chair, real quick, the mill rate wouldn't be in the 17s, it would be 15.33. If we ask for a little more from the gen fund, it would be a 15.33 on the mill rate. You said 17.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Through the chair. I just wanted to, thank you. I just wanted to do a quick just statement that I had the unique opportunity of being on the school board for a couple of years. And at that time, I mean, it was under the same direction. Peter was the assistant superintendent at the time. But being on that school board, I've never seen a board work so hard and be so diligent on cutting pennies, dimes, and nickels. And when I left that board, I had all confidence in what the school board did every single year. I never questioned it. And once I had the opportunity to be elected on the town council, that was one thing I was never questioning, was the hard work that the school board always did, and the budgeting to make sure that they presented to the council an unbelievable budget that could have gone up, you know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands every year, but the school board made the hard decisions to only ask for what they absolutely needed. And that was, and then you really can't even account for the unfunded mandates that the state requires, that is completely out of the control. I mean, that alone will skew the budget alone. So I just wanted to say that, you know, this is really tough for everybody. And I just think that we're doing the best we can for the residents and the taxpayers, but we also have the responsibility to maintain an excellent school and curriculum that continue to draw these families in from, that are coming in from the state and looking at the, comparing all the schools, and they want to come to Winslow, and that only helps with the tax burden in general for everybody. So I just wanted to make that statement and thank the school board for all the hard work that they do.
Thank you, Lee. If I might add something. When I started this process tonight, I said that I'm bringing you a budget that's been vetted and cut. I have. Some of the salary lines that you see are negative salary lines. No one asked me why.
Okay, why?
Because when we have a teacher that leaves and they're at the top of the scale, we budget for 5 years in masters, hoping that we're going to find somebody that's going to do that, so that we don't overcharge you as the taxpayer with that amount. If that doesn't work for us, and we have 5 or 6 people who are retiring this year, if that doesn't work for us, we have to find that money within that budget. We have to manage that. And sometimes that means going without some of the supplies that we have in here. Now, that's an awful thing. But when you put us in a situation where our budgets are beyond tight, if one student moves in and it's $100,000 and we can't handle it, I have to find that money someplace in this budget, and there's no place to find it. I freeze the budget. Everybody suffers. So when you run a budget that's this large, and you're doing everything you can possibly do to cut the corners and get it down to where we have it, there's not much else in here. When we run into trouble next year, we're going to erode what we have. I was trying to make a point earlier when I said, we don't have turf fields. I'm not asking for a turf field. My point was, we have the the minimum right now. And if we start to erode it, you're not going to get it back. So you have to be very careful that you don't erode the good that you have. And I understand everything that Mark is saying. I am 100% behind you, Mark. You have to bring revenues into this community. But you bring revenues in because they see you as a vibrant community. They see you as a school district that parents want to move into to put their kids in. Those are the things that bring a community and make it vibrant. If they see us as somebody who is always going to cut as every single solution to when we have a problem, they're not going to take the risk on us. That's where it becomes tough, and that's where your job becomes really tough. But, like mine, that's the job.
Adam?
When was the last time the school budget was cut? No, I meant like, not through you guys, but through a council or through anything. Has there ever been any sort of...
Council ever said, didn't approve your budget, I think is what he means.
When was the last time the council did approve our budgets? We've had situations where the council has said, can you come in at a certain amount, and we made the cuts to try to hit that mark, but we knew about it ahead of time so that we could plan. In this case, we've made all the cuts anticipating what's the lowest we can come in without hurting the district. And as I just explained, if we don't find certain individuals, we have no place to go for money. We have to find that money.
Through the chair, you know, Adam, we've made cuts. When we were building on the school committee to build the new high school, junior high school, tearing down the old junior high school, we made decisions at that point in time. Half a gym, we made it a full gym. We're auditorium, we didn't put a new auditorium in, we kept the same auditorium. So through the years, decisions have been made that I think, in my opinion, have been, you know, we've reduced the school budget and had numerous discussions over the 15, 16 years that I've been on, and have cut many, many times the school budget from ask and even from their want sometimes. But I think we're still at the same point. We could have discussions about this. If we either at this point in time in this process, I believe the school budget presented is fine, but that's just my opinion. If we don't feel that it's appropriate, then we have to get back to you as far as what the council feels needs to happen so that the school budget presented to us is acceptable to the majority of the council.
Which was where we were at just a bit ago.
That's where we're at. We're gonna be back there again.
Yes, you may
I
speak.
think in a
Yeah, of
half an
course.
hour.
So, as board chair, I guess I'll, if I'm interested to hear what all the councilors have to say about it and what has been presented and where you think we are on what was presented for a number. So, yes, the school budget is roughly 2/3 of the town budget. It is everywhere. It's not unique to Winslow. So I'm interested to see, in the context of what's been presented, what you think about where we are. Because, 112,000, as I understand it, is about 1/10 of a mil. And that's if it stays at that number. If it goes half of that, it's going to be half of 1/10 of a mil is our impact on any tax increase this year, as I understand it. So, if what we've presented or what Peter has presented isn't good enough, I guess we need to know what number is going to be acceptable. Toward Peter's indication of what has happened in the past, we've had what's the goal as a town? Can we get there? Can we contribute toward that goal with a number? And we haven't had that number. And knowing that budgets are tight, and they're always tight, but they've killed themselves to get to this number. So, and if you think this is not acceptable, then tell us what number is, please, so that the administration and the board understand what it is that you're trying to achieve, so we can collectively, because that's our job as a board with the administration, to figure out what can we deliver for an education with the amount of money that that we're able to have. This is what we think we need, collectively. But if that's not going to fly with the council, then we need to know what number it is, and give us some direction. So I'm interested to hear, what the council has to say on it. So, because the other thing is, we also don't want to get to this point, that we're debating this as the second read, because nobody wants to do that. You guys don't want to do it, we don't want to do it. So I'm hoping we can figure this all out before we get there. And we can all end up with a budget we can all live with. So, thank you.
Thank you. And you're right. It's this way with schools everywhere. So each year you're trying to decide the budgets for the municipality and the school. Every year you hear it. When is enough going to be enough? It has to stop somewhere. And unfortunately, because of the times of today, I think, in my opinion, they need to come down. And the consensus will start now. I'm going to ask they come back with lower numbers. I feel we have to. We have to start somewhere, and it's today. Doris, how do you feel?
I feel the same way. I mean, I was getting text messages from constituents during the meeting back and forth, and they can't afford it. So I'm not saying no, I'm saying wait till we.
No, it's yes or no to approve, and you're saying no, come back with different numbers. Adam?
I would say you'd have to come back with some other numbers, I guess, unfortunately.
Mike?
Myself as well, come back with other numbers.
Lee?
Looking at the numbers and knowing how hard they work at it, I mean, with the increase in salaries and increase in all the things that are out of our control, I think they're great numbers, and I think, personally, I think the municipal budget needs to drop, not the school board, not the school budget.
Ray?
I'm fine.
Katie?
I don't know. I don't think I'm ready yet. I don't think I can say one way or the other. I think I said what I wanted to say earlier is, yes, I'm interested in the number and the impact to the taxpayer, but I think my questions are larger than that, right? It's like, what does our futuristic picture look like? How are we impacting outcomes and things like that? And I don't know that necessarily falls up underneath the budget. I think we've already decided, right, as a group anyway.
Majority, yeah.
I guess I just want us to get as creative as we can, as innovative as we can, like to figure out what can we do a little bit differently now, not just this year, but the year after and the year after that. It's just.
I'm going to share a story with you. Years ago, I've been around doing this for a while. Years ago, when I worked in Waterville, our mayor, some of you might know him, his name was Paul LePage. Paul was a very strong supporter of schools, strong supporter of children, had his children in my school. I was a principal at the junior high at the time. When he became the mayor, he understood finances. And what he would do is he would look at what he anticipated the revenues that were going to come into the town. He anticipated what he could use from the fund balance. He anticipated other things that might be coming in. And as funny as this sounds, at the start of the budget season, he would take a napkin and he'd write a number on the napkin and he'd slide the napkin over. And he wouldn't ask you about all your lines. He'd say, you run the schools, that's your job, that's state statute, that's what you're required to do. What I'm required to do is to give you some money so that you can effectively run your schools. But I have a situation in this particular town where I have other needs. I need to have you try to hit that mark. To the locals, we had a target You're asking me to come back with a different number when I'm telling you that I'm bare bones. So you want me to start eroding the system. That's what I'm hearing. I need a number.
Do we discuss numbers here in public, out and open, what we think we want to be at, or where we need to be, or how much needs to be cut?
If I might through the chair, that's what he's asking, and I think that's what they deserve. I don't think they deserve any cuts, but that's what the council has to do right now.
It's not what they deserve, Ray. It's what the people, they don't deserve.
I shouldn't have
any-
made that
They
comment.
do a great
I
job.
shouldn't have made that
Thank
comment.
you.
That's,
Yeah, because
that
they
was
did do a great job.
emotional. I apologize for that.
No, that's
I mean, if I may through the chair, just a quick, I mean, we still have a variable, and that's the insurance. I mean,
You do.
I mean, we're at approximately, what was it, 112 now? And if, I mean, what did last year's insurance rate come back at?
I believe it came back at 5 or 6 is what we ended up with last year.
So if
So
you're,
that, but that's based on claims, Lee. There's all kinds of
right, but I'm
factors.
saying, if you budget for 10,
Mhm.
and we, comes back at, say, 7, I mean, there's, what, $90,000 right there?
$90,000, correct.
So then we're almost at a flat budget from the year before. Correct?
You are, Lee. You're actually worse than a flat budget because we cut 242 the year before. Yep.
But I mean, comparing to last
Yeah,
year's.
right. And so basically what I'm saying is our budget is already going the other way,
Correct.
to the local side, to the locals. And we work hard at that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We put 5.
Doesn't matter.
Something that I noticed was the municipality put 500,000 from their general fund. We put it on the municipal budget to try to, and the school's putting 350, but that's why I asked you in the beginning how much you actually have in there. So I think, I'm not gonna tell you where to do your cuts, so I'm just gonna say, maybe you could add a little more from your general fund and match the same amount. The people, that's the people's money. That general fund is the taxpayers' money. So take some of the taxpayers' money from your general fund and at least match the 500,000 we did. That'll help a little bit.
It would help you this year. It'll kill you next year.
Well, next year, you're gonna be saving, what, $423,000? Your bond should be
that is
paid
not a
next
save.
year.
That's not a savings, friend. That's a cost avoidance because other costs will go up. We have to negotiate other contracts. Those contracts are up. It's a cost avoidance. It's not necessarily a savings. So, does it look like it's a savings? Yeah, potentially, yes. So
Of course, you're paying off a bond, you're not
correct,
gonna be
correct.
spending that money there.
Correct, but I don't want to put the impression that just because that in order for it to be a complete $400,000 savings, no other costs would have to go up, and that's not going to happen. And your revenues from the state would have to be the exam. There's a lot of variables and a lot of factors in that. But I understand what you're saying. I understand your logic on that. The other part to that, Fran, is why we had this gentleman sitting in the back tonight, because that bond is coming off. And our schools, the mechanical structures of our schools do need to be looked at. And he, through EMC, has a plan to talk about that and how do we repair our schools, save money in the long run, use some of that money that's coming out of that bond so that that line isn't completely blank, so that you're not increasing it to the local taxpayer. You're keeping some in there to make the repairs that are necessary so that you don't have a system failure all at once and then you've got to go out and you can't have school because you can't run schools without a boiler.
Through the chair, you actually have a budget right now that you're putting money aside for any of these things that's happening? You have that particular money that you set aside, let's say if a furnace goes or anything like that, do you plan ahead, or if you need a
Capital,
new roof
he's
or
talking
anything?
about, do you have capital lines?
Yeah, capital lines.
What we have is in our fund balance, right? Because every year we come to this table and every year we see this and we come in with a lean budget. So you don't see any lines in here because we need the money to take care of our kids.
So you're not setting any money aside for any type of capital improvements?
You wouldn't have to with this plan that he has, because you'd be using some of the existing money in that bond line to make that happen.
In the bond line?
In the existing bond line that's going to retire, yes.
Yeah, that's going to be next year, right?
Yes.
Through the chair, I move to take a 10-minute recess so we can discuss a solid number.
Oh, it's all public. Oh, you're gonna have time to think about it.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Everybody
10-minute
would have to
recess?
approve 10-minute recess?
5, yeah. I go, at least to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Can I ask a question before you go on recess?
Absolutely, you can.
Tom came up from Portland to do a presentation tonight, so if he's not going to get the opportunity to speak about the future of our schools and how we can take care of our schools, because as you clearly pointed out, we can't afford new schools. And Fran, I heard you say in a meeting a while back, what about the maintenance of things? How are we taking care of things? Are we oiling things? Well, this is a big oil over here. This is something that needs to be done before things get really bad, and then we can't afford to fix them. So, again, this is another opportunity for us.
That's not for this year though, right? You're not trying to put that on the budget for
It
this
is
year?
not for this year, but there are many, many savings that go into effect, and they are going to expire soon. So if we don't get some type of direction, we're going to lose the ability to have those savings. That's why it's
Through
important.
the chair, how long is the presentation?
It's 20 minutes, I guess. I could do it quick.
We should probably end this part of it first then. Just take the 5-minute break and think about what numbers people might come up with. So let's all take a 5-minute break. So I should. Thank you. That was not a good 5 minutes. I apologize.
Next time.
You want to say something?
Am I good to go?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm Tom Seekins from Energy Management Consultants. Can you guys hear this okay? Is it good?
Jen, Mike.
All set.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, awesome. Did my thing not or unplug there? That's odd. Wonderful. That's perfect timing.
Want me to toggle?
Yes, if you don't mind. Or I could, shoot, I don't know how else to do it from here, but this is the first time that's not worked, actually. Bummer. Okay. Well, I'm Tom Seekins from Energy Management Consultants. I will go as fast as I possibly can. I'll try to read the room. I'm sure. So don't shoot the messenger, We were brought on about a year ago through a competitive bid process, interviewing firms to select an energy engineering firm or consulting firm to develop a plan for the district. And that work started about a year ago with about 4 of our engineers pawing through the buildings for, again, the past year entirely. And these are some of the things that we look at when we're doing the analysis. But I think it might be important, again, the district put out an RFQ through the Kennebec Journal, got a bunch of responses, interviewed 3 or 4 different companies, and we were selected through that process. And a lot of it is cost ratios for us to do this project and our process, which we didn't charge to do any of the analysis. But also our experience doing this through schools. EMC's been doing this with Maine schools for about 30 years, based out of Portland. I personally have been doing it for 23 years. So pretty vast experience. We're currently working with Vassalboro schools doing some HVAC improvements, and Waterville schools doing some air testing and things like that. So we're in the neighborhood quite a bit. I will say, you can go to the next slide if you want. Having done this for a very long time, and we see 98% of our projects are schools. This school district is probably, and I'm not just saying this, about top 5 I've seen in the state for how well you've maintained your buildings over the past 30 years. No question about it. If you hadn't been maintaining your buildings the way you have been, with proactive maintenance programs, an administration that has been together that long, that's also rare to see. I go to 3 school board meetings a week on average for over 2 decades. So I see a lot of school boards, a lot of schools, a lot of classroom environments. And there's no doubt if you hadn't been taking care of your schools the way you have been, you would have been having this meeting a long time ago. So it's a very thought out, thorough process to get here. And upon being selected, the whole emphasis was we need to find solutions to improve things that are supposed to last 20 years that are now 35 years old. How do we do that without just having a big, huge bond that we're going to throw at our tax base? That was the objective and the directive from your superintendent, school board, and your entire team. So what we do is we engineer the solutions, we come up with the different options, show the different options on things like boiler plants and air handlers and roofs. Elementary school roof is 35 years old and has tons of pinhole leaks in it, but it's also built around air handlers. So there's a lot of complicated things going on in the district and that you are trying to get a handle on and being proactive, because if you're doing it in a reactive state, it's going to cost you a heck of a lot more money than being proactive. So the whole goal at the end of the audit was to do a complete analysis. Yes, energy and infrastructure. How do we save money, both operationally and energy, but also how do we do it proactively with a capital plan, and that's what we've laid out. So what we essentially do, thank you. We come up with this engineered solutions. We put together bid specifications. We walk the contractors through to get the competitive bids. We are responsible for and that's the bids right there from an example project. We show you the bids from the contractors, and then we select contractors to move forward once you have an actual project to move forward with, and then we build it, and we're responsible for it the whole way through. Yep. So just an example, I'm going to paw through these. Again, this is a year of literally 4 engineers going through your buildings for an entire year, and so I'm doing as best I can to capture the deficiencies. We prioritize things on a 1 through 3 basis. Red 1 was things that are imminent and should be addressed very soon. Things like cast iron sectional boilers like you see here that are now kind of a decade or so beyond their useful life. They're volatile. Cast iron is hard to get these days. It was obsolete for a while, 20 to 25 weeks to get sections. Now you can get them again, but they're volatile. So if you lose a section, and you can go to the next slide here, those are the sections in the boilers which you have lost in the past. It's very expensive to repair. I remember Shelley calling me years ago for a $25,000 section, and that was when we first started doing the analysis, and we were able to get a contractor to seal it for $2,500. So there's a lot of things I think that have happened in the district that do not make it to meetings like this that have saved a lot of money. That was a $20,000 save right there. But at the end of the day, things do have a life expectancy. So this is an example of what the boiler room probably should look like. This is actually Ellsworth Schools. Consolidating pumps and boilers and going to high efficiency propane. There's no such thing as high efficiency oil. It doesn't exist. And also creating an environment where you're buying things domestically is also important. But just the boiler room alone yields, for this particular school, yields about $23,000 in annual savings by converting it from oil to gas. So, and that's a pretty conservative number. And I think we used $2.90 a gallon for that. You bought fuel cheaper this year, but we do a full-blown calculation for every single measure we're looking at. So the boiler rooms combined were in the neighborhood of $40,000 in annual savings. This is what the propane tank farm would look like with the vaporizer and the tank. This is what it would look like after it was built out. This is just obviously AI generated, because that is your school, but it's not there yet, I promise. This is a domestic hot water regulator valve that has failed. There's a lot of this stuff. It's just deferred maintenance. Again, you had Shelley here for 30 years and Peter here for 17 years, and now Corey gets to take it over right when it gets to the end of its useful life. So, and she really did a phenomenal job, but again, it's all 25 to 30 years old, so it's going to fail. And part of this plan is to replace things like this. Again, domestic hot water expansion tanks, doors, crash bars. People expect them to last forever. The fact remains that kids love to do karate kicks through crash bars and slam them shut when they're upset, or just in general use. They really have to be prison grade to sustain kids these days, and they just don't. So they don't last forever, but they're also super expensive. They also a lot of times connect to the fire alarm mechanism so that they unlock in the event of a fire or egress. There's more to them than just a door, and they're again very expensive. So the goal here was to plan for a few of those a year for the next 5 to 10 years as part of your capital plan. Building envelope, why bother putting in new efficient boilers and sealing up if you're not going to seal the building up to keep the good air in and the bad air out. So this is a pretty standard measure we do with all the schools, and doing it right now with Vassalboro. We do all the infrared scanning throughout the year to show where all the real cracks are in the crevices. So it's not guesswork, it's exact work. And this is all the stuff that we've been compiling for the past year. Automation systems that you have in the district really is, we call it automation, it's not. It's an energy management system that you in theory should have. You've got pneumatics, which is compressed air. It is very archaic. You're limited on technicians that can work on that anymore. So part of the goal is to get you in a situation where you have a facilities team that Corey can see all your schools from one location, troubleshoot things, get low temp alarms so you can avoid things like frozen pipes, or canceling school because you didn't know that the school was 40 degrees because the boilers were down. So those are the kind of things that are pretty basic that you should have that don't exist today. And you also have a pretty serious problem with consistent temperature in the classroom. And I'm sure, and the principals here would attest to that. You know, it's windows that are open when they shouldn't be and closed when they could be or shouldn't be. And it's just a nightmare because you have very old technology running the valves in each classroom that expire. And so right now, you don't have any of this technology in place that tells you where things have failed or when they're going to fail. It's just when somebody complains that it's cold. And that's the issue. Or it's hot, because in Maine, in the Northeast, valves fail open. So you just pour heat in if something has failed and you don't know it because you're just over pressurizing and you're using way more fuel than you have to. So that's a big deal. As part of it as a consultant and just a pure engineering firm, we're not a brand, we're not trying to get your service, we don't care about that. We want to build systems that do not lock you into anybody. And right now you are in a situation where you have some proprietary systems, so we want to get you away from that. And that is a Niagara-based system that allows you to choose the contractors you want down the road. So if you do want to change maintenance agreements, which is something we looked at here, could reduce costs there. And it could be a significant reduction in that cost. It could be $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in service reduction if you had the ability to go to other contractors Right now, you really don't, because even though they're old controls, a lot of it's very proprietary, and Corey has to call the same companies because no one else can work on it. So when we're all said and done, the goal would be migrate away from this situation, so when you do want to get when a panel does fail, you can get competitive numbers and not feel like you're stuck. Because right now, whatever the number is the number. So this is a lot of the stuff that we find during the audit. A lot of we're comprised of professional engineers, mechanical engineers, licensed HVAC techs, masters in VRF and refrigeration, oil, gas, you name it. But they're people on our team that have serviced and installed this stuff in schools for over 20 years each. So when we're looking at this thing objectively, it's pretty hard when things aren't connected. Those are the actuators that actually move the dampers to open and close them to provide fresh air and heat into the classrooms. So they're not connected, and it really needs to be addressed because it could cause some real issues down the road. LED conversions is something that is a must-have these days, because Efficiency Maine has made it abundantly clear that they're not going to continue to support LED conversions because they're no longer legal to buy incandescent lights, so that they're obsolete. So you're kind of forced, well, not kind of, you are forced to buy LED now. So they are putting out a funding opportunity notice, which is time sensitive, and that's why we're here at this time. Again, your administration, your school board acted on quickly to capture this funding, because it is about $80,000 in incentive dollars to convert your LED lights. So want to do that. It's a no-brainer, and you're going to have to do it regardless anyway. So you can just skip that. That's just that's the funding opportunities that shows the increased lighting incentive. Up to 34 cents per kilowatt hour, so it's up from 26. It's a heck of a increase, but the problem is that it's time sensitive. So this is from their website. The applications are due by the end of June, and they have to be complete by the end of August. So obviously time sensitive. Looking at my clock here, okay. This is the other boiler plant. Again, very similar to the prior boiler plant, cast iron sectional boilers, very inefficient. Typically, the turn-down ratio is probably 5. The turn-down ratio of the new boilers is 40-1, which basically means you're full-on 2 million BTUs of heat, whether you need it or not, versus a boiler that will ramp down 40 times to equate to the level of heat in a large home. So it gives you the heat based on outside air temperature, not just a huge giant machine like that is just pumping heat when all you need is just a little bit. So there's a lot of efficiencies that can be gained by converting these out. And also, they're not really going to be supported that much longer with the cast iron sectional boilers the way they're going. This would be an example of what it would look like when it was all said and done. And this is, again, the calculation that we had done to the prior slide, but this one shows about $19,000 a year in annual savings, and that's a conservative number. We use about 90% on the savings there just to be conservative, but they're probably going to realize around 96% most of the year. Shoulder seasons, especially when they condense. This is an example of what your pumps look like. You've got an arrangement of pumps hanging from the ceiling. From a life safety standpoint, not ideal. Not a ton of technicians love to respond to those when they're on a huge ladder trying to change out a pump coupling like that. It's not a fun endeavor. So what we would do is consolidate those down into 2 base-mounted pumps like you would have in today's age, not individual pumps like that. It's a crazy energy savings, operational savings, and you consolidating from 6 pumps down to 2. And this is some examples of what the pumps would look like. These are all boiler rooms we just did this past summer, where you have 2 ground-mounted pumps, easy to service, easy to get to, identify any issues, noises that you can't hear when they're 20 feet in the air. They have built-in drives on them, so that, again, they're much like the boilers. They provide heat based on what you need, almost like a gas pedal in your car. Right now, you're slamming the gas to go to the next light, letting off, slamming the gas to go to the next light, letting off. These essentially act as a gas pedal that allows you to go at the speed that you want when you need it. Domestic hot water, again, you have the side arm, what we call it, domestic hot water heater. Not really that efficient. We would be going to indirects that would come off the boiler plant, so that you're only storing the amount of water that you need, not a huge hundreds of gallons of water that is just being stored. But when it's being stored, it has coils in the tanks that are continuously heated, which burns fuel, and it's not necessary. VRF is a solution we've looked at. There is a Maine state standard now for superintendents and school boards to achieve a certain delta for temperature range in schools. It's mandated now, so heat pumps have become very popular to help offset that issue. And so heat pumps come in a variety of different ways, but there's awesome savings attached to it. And provides air conditioning and heat as your primary source, so it's great. We've been doing it a lot, and we're doing it in Vesselboro this summer. The entire second floor will become VRF, so they'll have heating and cooling, and this is what the cassettes look like when they're hanging from the ceiling. But these are far more advanced. They simultaneously heat and cool, so each individual classroom can have a thermostat that's exactly what that teacher needs for their learning environment, which is obviously vastly different between different types of teachers and students that are in the room. More LED issues there. These little, we call them airline hangers, and people love, kids, when I say people, love to throw things on top of those lights or try to hang off them, and that becomes fun. So, you know, getting rid of those recessed lights, much like these, but LED with dimmers, advanced controls so that when it's light outside, it automatically dims the light, so also known as daylight harvesting. That's all built into today's technology, and this is what it kind of looks like. Completely changes the environment of a classroom. This is not a light filter at all. This is literally converting from an old light that is surface mounted on the left-hand side there, and then going to a recessed LED light. It literally changed the entire classroom environment. So huge increase in test scores. It's been proven over and over and over again. It's a no-brainer when it comes to these projects. And this is a mixed bag of some of the other lights and areas that you've got: gymnasium, again, libraries, and you've got probably like 40 different types of light fixtures throughout the district and each school. When you convert to LED, you'd go with the same fixture everywhere, so you get a 7-year warranty on those, saves you a lot of money in the next 5 to 10 years, and just replacing lights, which gets very expensive. Again, more building envelope, looking at the cracks, infiltration around windows. We did infrared scans literally everywhere in your schools, from the roof to the floor. We've got building envelope as a measure that would be a priority one. And this is, again, just more fun with the FLIR cameras. And the roofing for the elementary school is standing seam roof. It's gigantic. We kind of compartmentalized it because it is huge. It is very expensive, like any stainless steel, what am I trying to say? Standing seam. Yeah, there you go, Joel, thanks. You guys are making me nervous, God. Thank God the police officer's out there. There's one section of this building, and I think it's the B section, where the air handlers are literally built under it. So it's just, we see it quite a bit in schools. And this is some of the cracks you see. It kind of looks like bird droppings, but that's actually epoxy to seal the roof. So it's, you know, it's time. But again, that's an expensive thing. You can see the middle is the EPDM, which is rubber, and the rest of it is standing seam. So it's a big one. It's not part of the first phase that we're recommending. It should be its own separate project, and that could probably wait a couple more years, but it is 35 years old, 36 years old. Kitchen equipment leaking causes mold if you're not careful, and can cause issues because this is your food service, right? So you want to make sure you're taking care of it. Again, the condensing units here are well beyond their useful life. They're leaking, and it happens quite a bit. We replace a lot of walk-in coolers with schools. This is your control system, again, showing you the compressor. It runs pneumatic tubing that has thousands of linear feet of tubing throughout the school that cracks over time, and when it cracks, it leaks. And so this is geared to pressurize that tubing to open and close valves. If there's leaks in the tubing, the pressure doesn't make its way to the valve, so this thing runs all of the time. And it's a major energy hog when it comes to electricity. So getting rid of this and going to digital controls is a priority one for sure. Big energy saver and more consistent temperatures in the classroom. The district has been, this is not something that happened by accident. The timing for this came because the bond was coming to fruition. That was something that the directive we had from the beginning, and it's like, how do we do this thing and still make the improvements so when it comes off in 2027, we may not use all of it, but if there's a portion we could use, let's build into it a couple different options. So we put everything into another tool that has literally, I think, over 119 measures. It identified about $20 million in existing equipment. Not all of it obviously has to be failed. Nobody go crazy on me here. This $20 million is not necessary right now, but it is something that you really should be considering. These air handlers are literally the size of a small home that provide you the fresh air, and they're rusted, they're cracked and leaking, and they just don't last forever. So we break it all out into a pricing mechanism like this and allow you to choose the things that you want. We just show you the options as your consulting engineering firm, and you guys pick what you think is financially palatable for a phase one, and then create a capital plan. So we boiled it down. I have met with your team more than I have ever met with a school system in my 23 years. We've probably met 15 times, I would think, between Zoom calls and in person, narrowing down a list in a project phase one that would make sense. So we kind of worked it into, yeah, this would be great, probably not going to happen. On the left-hand side, which is the $573,000 payment to do all those things. And that's, again, those are budget numbers because we don't do the full bidding process until we know what you guys want to do as a community and a team. And the second option would be with VRF. There it is. So my time is up. But promised 20 minutes, so 21 here. The VRF is the second option only because it yields significant energy savings and rebates from Efficiency Maine, nearly $436,000. And the last one would be without the VRF if you just went really just straight boiler rooms, lighting, building envelope, the controls, and that's a most logical phase one, and that would require about $240,000 a year, starting in 2027, July of 2027. That's when the first payment would due. So the goal was to start the project, the payment in 27, but could we start the work now without having to come up with any money? And that's exactly what we've developed here for our plan. So, perfect night for me to present that, I think. But it is what it is, right?
Thank you.
I have a quick curiosity question for you.
What's that?
You have a question?
Oh, sorry.
Just a quick curiosity.
Yep.
So you mentioned that you would put the bids out to contractors.
Yeah.
Where do you source those contractors from? Are they from Portland? Are they from Winslow area? Like, are we going to
As
use
many
our
local
own?
contractors we can get in every community. We're a Maine-based company, so anything from Maine is a plus. You want the best contractors bidding on your projects, clearly, right? And so do we, because we're responsible for it. But because we've been doing this just for so long, and our drawings and engineers are top-notch, we get a lot of bids for projects. I mean, we just got 10 bids for a roofing project we're doing for a school up in Hope. So we'll advertise for it, but we have a very big bullpen of contractors that do this and do it well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. I just
Yeah.
think what a win-win, right? If we can bring some of that work and business to some of the people in our own community.
1,000%. Yep. That's the first place we go.
Did you mention what the total cost would be for that?
That, the three different options.
It's all one though, right?
No, those three different options there. The ideal project would have been $6 million. The second project was $3.7 million, and the third one was $2.7 million, which would be financed through a tax-exempt lease purchase. So we engineered about $36 million worth of projects for schools last year in Maine, and every single one of them used a tax-exempt lease purchase because it's not a bond where you're locked in for whatever you take out. You're paying interest on the day you take it out. You pay interest in what you use. It's flexible in nature in terms of refinancing, which you can down the road. You can prepay the interest, which is a huge interest, a lot of savings should you have extra money in the budget. That was not a joke. I'm just saying a lot of districts do have extra money at the end of the day. So sometimes if you do, you can pay down your note, which would obviously help. With a bond, you can't do that. And then the coolest thing about them, which is why schools use, is you get an entire year before your first payment's due. So the whole thing is designed where this would start in 27, not now. Although the work would start now, we have to front it and wait for the financing to close, and that's how it works.
Through the chair, what's the interest rate you're talking about?
The last few that I've seen, we've just bid out 7 projects in the past week, around 4.2 to 4.6, depending on the term. So the longest term I feel like is the best is 17 years, just because banks own the risk of this. So there is a non-appropriation clause built into it where the bond, the taxpayers, you own the risk of the equipment. Whereas this has the non-appropriation clause that basically says if you're going to consolidate schools or get rid of one of them, all the stuff that you put in that one school is technically not your risk. It's not the taxpayer's risk. It's the bank's risk. So you will see about a 25 to 50% basis point difference between a bond, but there's no cost to issue a tax-exempt lease purchase, which saves you money, and you're not tied to that payment should you consolidate schools or something. It doesn't matter to us how you guys finance it. I'm just telling you the differences between and what's been popular with schools.
Thank you.
Yep.
In the age of the school, does that come into, is it worth putting this into this school or?
Oh, I mean, yeah, the alternative is to build a new school, which, we've seen some schools that are really bad and they're like 40th on the list. The other thing I want to say too is we did apply for revolving renovation funds. That was a big part of this in the past year. Just didn't get it. There's too many schools going for that money. There were like 11 schools that got money last year and 30-something that got nothing. And some of them were really bad because we filled out the applications and we filled out yours. Unfortunately, didn't get any. But we also looked at congressional direct spending and other grant mechanisms that are out there, and of course, efficiency made money. So it wasn't just to say, you know, we're going to use the bond. We also looked and applied for other sources of capital to make these improvements.
Can we do that by grants as well?
Yeah, that's what we are. We tried to apply for grants, as many as we could find. It's just that they didn't come in. There's so many schools going after that money because the state's not really funding new construction a whole lot right now. They have made a conservative effort to provide more revolving renovation fund money, but it comes out every year, and it's like the Oklahoma land rush trying to land some of that money. It's tough to get. You have to be in really bad shape. The good news is you've maintained your buildings extremely well. The bad news is if they were worse, then maybe you have a chance, but I don't think anybody would want that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair. Do you have a total annual savings amount? You mentioned it kind of broken out in a few areas.
Yeah, depending on what was selected, you'd be in the neighborhood of, if you did the boiler rooms and the lights and some of the other things, you'd probably be in the neighborhood of $80,000 a year in savings, energy savings.
Thank you.
That was the other thing too, is that the district was going to use as much of that towards their payment to offset the cost as well. So, and that's the formula that a lot of schools use, which is why this is designed for schools to use. Obviously, companies like we can't use this. But that year of reprieve is to start garnering energy and operational savings to put towards your payment as well. So all that was taken in consideration without having to raise the budget to make this stuff happen.
If I might, through the chair, if I was to make a decision on, I'd need to know, I'd have to study the options
Yeah.
a little better.
Mhm.
And then I'd have to look at the savings of each option.
Mhm.
After I knew the savings of each option, then what I would have to do is fund it. So what bond, what's the amount of the bond, how many years we're gonna take it out?
Yeah, we've done
And
that.
what are the grant savings that we could have, so.
We've done that with your team. Look, that's what I mean by the 12 times we've met. We've
Yeah.
done that literally every single time. And including Joel on when he's in his office at work, doing Teams calls, scrubbing through the tool. What can we eliminate to get the cost down around 200? Using savings and offset with efficiency made money. We've done that a lot. So, yep.
So if I might ask Peter a question. So Peter,
I think he has a question for you.
yeah, I have a question. What are you looking for from us? Are you gonna make the decision on the option and then the payment method and then come to the council? Or do you want the council to make that decision on the option? I think you're the one who needs to make the decision on the option and then come to the council.
It's not a council, wouldn't that go to referendum?
No.
No,
Because
it's
it's
a
a lease
bond.
payment. It's not a bond.
It's not a
It's a
bond,
lease
it's a
payment.
payment.
And like he explained, you just pay on the interest. So to answer your question, Ray, what am I looking for? I'm providing transparency. We have a bond that's coming off our books next year. We have our structures that are in need of help. Here's a way to correct our structures using some of the money that's coming off that bond to make that happen with this lease payment arrangement, as Tom suggested. The best options are, the 17 years. If you have some extra money, you can, pay it down sooner. The savings that you're going to incur from this. So that's what I'm looking for. Is I'm just giving you transparency. This is what we'd like to do, so that next year when that bond comes off, somebody doesn't say to me, "Wait a minute, you had $426,000 come off. Why is there money in that line?" Because we're trying to fix our schools.
And I apologize for this, but how much is it?
For his options.
Yes,
Do you have that?
apologize again.
Yeah, they were the last. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
We just so you know, we started with 10 different variations of this and narrowed it down to this. Because as I identified, there's $20 million in things that we showed, but they're not all at the end of their,
They can't see that.
You can you zoom? Oh, you can from that screen maybe? Okay, so the first project would be $6.5 million with $436,000 in rebates. That's the savings first year. That's very conservative. It's probably in the neighborhood of $80,000. Your annual contribution is 507 because you're offsetting that 573 at the second to bottom line that's highlighted in yellow with energy savings. So the second option would be all these things, like taking out the windows, phase loss monitoring, and some of the other things, interior door magnets, all those things on the bottom. And then just going with this selected list over here, that is a $3.8 million project.
Yep.
Again, you get the same efficiency main rebates because that's coming from the VRF. Annual contribution is $276, but your payment is $335, but you're offsetting that payment with some energy savings. And then the third project, which is without the VRF, so your incentives go down significantly, down to $86,000. Your annual contribution is $192 with a payment of $247, but you're using the energy savings to offset your payment, so you're just below the $200,000 a year mark, which is less than half of, I believe, the bond. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I heard it earlier. Yeah. So that was the goal from the district.
So actually, phase 2 is probably the best thing for it as far as a budget and far as a cost.
Yeah, well, yes, it gets you, right, you get the VRF, you get, that's 43,000 square feet of cooling via VRF, and you get a pretty big incentive back from efficiency main. So the second the project is over, that money goes back to the district to put towards payments and everything else, so, or whatever.
I think what we're gonna do is, thank you so much for
Yeah.
your
Yeah,
time.
thank you.
This was
Thank you.
presented out of a courtesy tonight, because this is a workshop, so we're gonna move forward.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
May I ask a question about this, though?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because this is on a time frame. And so, as Mark alluded to earlier, us talking and communicating and working together as we move forward is very important. So we just didn't go ahead and pick the most expensive option and get everything done, because I don't know what the town's needs are going to be a year from now. You know, I hear about, well, there's things that you're gonna have to go out and bond for. So in working with the town and working together and getting our schools fixed, we're bringing this to your attention, because if you've got a major bonding issue that's coming up in a year from now, and we need to work together about what that's gonna look like, then that kind of points us in the direction of which phase we would approach, so that we're working together. But if we don't act on this, we're gonna lose all this energy main efficiency from the lighting. So we need to act, and we just need to have a sense from you that, yes, you want us to fix our buildings. I would think that, and this sounds like a reasonable option. It's just a matter of which one, because I don't know what your needs are.
Through the chair, what's the deadline for the rebates? What's it,
June?
June 3rd,
Well,
30th?
it's quick. Tom, can you reach out, can you just holler at Tom, Katie, and just,
I think he had on there, I think the lighting needed to be done by the end of August, so the lighting would have to get done this, you know.
Tom,
The application has to be done soon,
the
Tom,
question
the
regarding.
rebates.
but then you gotta source materials.
application have to be in for the main
End of June.
No,
Complete by the end of August.
can't do that.
project, that piece of it.
Thanks.
As soon as it's complete, you get your money. Nasselberg already got their lighting incentives. We start the VRF this summer, and they'll get the VRF after that. They got about 150,000. So, similar concept. Because you made inspect it when we're done, close it out, and then they send you guys the money.
But just to clarify a question, yes, the application has to be done by the end of June.
Yep.
But then you need time to source the materials, get it out to bid, get it sourced, and get it installed by the end of August.
Yeah, we've done
Which is the timeline?
We've done the full audit, that's done, that's the biggest work, that takes like 3 months to do it. You have to show every single light and switch in the entire district, electrical load differential, all that stuff is already done. You submit that, it could get done, it'll be close, but it
What,
will get done.
what happens if it's not done by the deadline?
We would not commit to getting it done if we couldn't do it. I'm just telling you, there's no chance I would endorse moving forward with it. Maine's a small state, you don't do that a lot, and get away with it, so I wouldn't recommend doing it if we couldn't do the job. And we're responsible for it, so if it doesn't come through, we tell you you're gonna get that money, that's on us, so.
I just have a hard time tonight making a decision on something I didn't know about anything of 10 minutes ago before the presentation, so I'm gonna need more than just a minute to
I have
process
to
and
agree.
think of it all.
Is this an answer that you guys could give maybe by the budget readings? Would that suffice for everyone? Or is this you're looking for an answer tonight?
No.
When's your drop dead date?
This
Tom?
actually all should be discussed at a meeting. This is not a public form of a meeting.
Right.
So,
Right.
again,
I could set back a timeline for when it has to be decided upon, I mean, it's getting pretty close, but I don't wanna, I'm not gonna paint anyone in a corner here, but at the end of the day, there is a timeline that needs to be met. If it doesn't, that's.
when is your timeline? I haven't heard the timeline that you need an answer.
The application has to be in by the end of June, so I mean,
Okay.
you know, I think within the next couple of weeks, if we had an answer, it would be, you still need it. That's your call, but I'd say a couple of weeks.
When is the April?
April 13th.
April 13th. Is April 13th acceptable?
He just said till June.
Yeah.
Oh, that's when the
Well,
application
he
is.
has to know a decision.
Oh, you have to have the application
Yeah.
in.
There's a lot of work to get these applications done, they take a long time.
April 13th,
April 13th at the meeting, we can
That's fair enough.
I'd feel
make a
comfortable with that.
decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Now back to where we were. They're looking for, Peter's looking for some insight on some numbers.
I got one question to ask you, Pete, is that how many people are working on bonds for the school? Do you have a lot of people that works for bonds as far as getting bonds for your school, as far as, or I should say grants, not bonds, grants for your school?
We have, the people who we have hired are the ones who are working on those. For examples, all of the Title I monies, Title II monies, that's Michelle's. She writes those applications because that's all part of our school and that's all part of our programming. So that's title funds, if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
So she oversees that portion of it. Yeah, they're not competitive.
Then how many did we get this year? Mm-hmm.
Our allocation this year for Title I-A was $435,845.62. That did not meet our salary obligations for our employees in that program, so we took some Title IV money, which is $41,603.60, and we swung it over into Title I to cover our salary obligation there.
Mm-hmm.
And we received $66,262.
Okay.
Okay, can we please just go ahead with what we were going to do? Do you have some numbers?
I have some numbers here that we'll discuss, and I'm thinking if we take 500,000 out of the general, match what we're giving, and probably reduce it by 750,000.
So you're saying have him, the school, match what
yes.
we paid, 700,
Yes.
I'm sorry, 500?
500,000.
500,000.
Yeah, 500,000.
From your general fund, I think is what he meant.
Yes.
And
You want us to increase our contribution from our general fund from
Yes.
350 to 500?
Yes.
the same thing the town paid. Oh, I think that's fair, only because, again, that's the people's money.
Can I ask you
So-
what's in your general fund?
Um,
Because mine's gonna have 500 in it.
Yep, but you
and then
don't
it's
use
gonna
it
have
for
nothing in
everything
it
that,
And then it's gonna have nothing in it next year.
no, you won't have nothing in it. You're still gonna have 350 or so $1,000 in it, which is
My-
all
my-
you're required to
My-
have.
My point, Fran, is that money is there to help the taxpayer, because if it's not there, then we continue to cut the school district, or you create a huge hole in your budget, and next year, that budget's gonna go up, and everybody's gonna say, why is the budget gone up? And we're gonna say, because we've used too much of that general fund in 1 year.
If I might, through the chair, you're asking to increase just from the general fund another $150,000, right?
That's correct.
That's 150 on top of what you've already paid. And he's asking that they come back with cuts that equal $750,000.
So we're gonna come in how many percentages under zero?
So is everybody up here in agreement with what Mike's asking for?
No.
No.
We'll go around.
Yeah.
No?
No.
No.
Okay. I say yes.
I say yes.
750 is a little high.
That's a
but
starting number,
It's a number we could start at, yeah.
a negotiation type number to give some, I guess, I don't know. I understand, I do, we get it.
What did
It's
Dor-
done, we've already
Oh,
voted.
well, I'm just saying, I didn't hear what Doris said.
Yes, it's the starting number to negotiate.
I think
At
we'll
the
have
end of
to,
it?
we'll have to schedule another meeting if you want to do some talks about it. If you can, if you can't. Some different numbers, do the best you can, bring them back. This is very, 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 very difficult, very hard, very hard. And I know you guys don't understand it, but when we have to look out for everybody, it's very difficult for us to do this as well. It truly is. If we didn't care about the people of this town, we'd give you anything you wanted. We would have given the town everything they wanted. But we have to try, and it's very, very hard to do, but we have to start. We have to start. Sorry.
So through the chair, I think Peter's gonna come back, and then what are the changes and what are the repercussions of that reduction? And then we'll see what the ramifications are, and
Take it from there.
we'll have a next meeting.
A genuine question?
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, because you know what? I'm sorry, you're part of the school board?
Yes.
Okay, because I was asked.
I'm here as a school board member.
No, I get that, but I was asked outside that somebody from the community would like to speak as well, but he was told no. And then he questioned me, then why did I let others speak who were not department heads of the school, because this is a school budget. So I think we're going to stop, or I'm going to allow him to speak as well.
I have a question about funds, so
She's a school board, but it's usually department heads that speak, and the superintendent for the budget. So anyway, I think we can either all agree to adjourn for the night.
I think we should set a meeting time for the next meeting. I
We
think
can
we
leave
need
that
to
up to
do that.
Peter. Peter will know when he'd like to probably get it together. He's the one that's gonna need the time.
Motion to adjourn?
You
We
don't
need to know a
motion.
meeting time.
You don't need to adjourn, it's just a workshop. So done, so done.
I need time to meet with the administrative team to talk about this next week. So,
Peter, you can get back to us with a date if you need to.
yeah, it would be good to do that.
Okay? Make a motion to adjourn?
You don't need to adjourn, we're done.
Adjourn?
Thank you.
Okay.